chillin', serial killing, pre-cold villains on the mic, got you reeling. 5-star rated from the floor to the ceiling. If you catch a 1-star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ on the ones and twos, by the name Beelzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all over two, and prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' Crew.
What up, nerds, and welcome to another Mother Boy episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 332, recorded on Thursday, August 12th, 2021. Tonight, we will finally be discussing the original Friday the 13th from 1980. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from my immediate right, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up?
You know, you're beautiful when you're in person, sweetheart.
God, I'm so glad that I can feel your warmth.
I know, man. You touched my skin earlier, and I still remember.
With my tongue. It was real salty.
You know, I bring the pork. I bring it.
God damn. Last but not least, calling in from Randy's immediate right, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up? It's your boy, Mother Stains.
Mother stains. I always like to envision what the stains are coming from, but it's usually gross.
Guys, the boys are back.
The boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town today. The boys are back. Whoa.
And we drinking.
Yeah. We might be a little twisted.
It's probably obvious already.
Yes.
But in case you're wondering, yes, we have been drinking.
We drinking.
The boys are back.
We just did a live watch with the squad on YouTube. Watched Friday the 13th. First time we ever did anything quite like that. It was a good time. Thanks for hanging out if you were able to make it. Also, we're going to be kicking this episode off with a shot of Old Forester. Shouts outs to Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, for sending us some nice whiskeys. If we all mysteriously die, it's because Nicole poisoned this whiskey.
It's not much of a... It'll be recorded.
She requested that we drink this when we are all together again, and here we are.
That is rare, so we got to drink it now.
There we go.
Yeah.
To Nicole.
To Nicole of the Light and Shadow Podcast.
Light and Shadow Podcast.
Formerly
Check
Chiaroscuro.
Check it out. Thanks for the
you,
whiskey.
Nicole. Ooh.
I wish I didn't have a cut on my lip.
Woo.
That's quite good.
It's that's exceedingly drinkable. Yeah,
It has a burn. I found it.
I like the warmth at the end. It's got an extra little kick. That's one of Nicole's favorites. That's why she sent it to us.
Yeah.
She collects whiskeys and bourbons.
That is going to put hair on my chest.
I am going to slur.
Yeah. I'm
Because of
washing
this.
down the whiskey with some more whiskey.
I will do the same.
So that's how this show is going to go. Thank you again, Nicole. Check out Light and Shadow Podcast. It's great. If you like us, you'll like her because she's smarter.
And you'll probably like her even if you don't like us. Because
yeah.
let's be real, she's more likable.
Let's tackle some housekeeping real quick before we get into the main event. Here's another reminder. We have our September poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this September. The theme is Halloween parties, and the three movies you can vote between are Casper, The Guest, and Night of the Demons.
Bob, how are those numbers looking?
Bob! How are those numbers looking?
I won. That's such a high pitch. Such a high pitch that you hit. Night of the Demons in first place, followed by Casper, followed by The Guest.
Closely followed by Casper, Bob.
Night of the Demons is still in the lead.
It's not like close, but Casper is gaining some momentum.
Casper is gaining some momentum, people.
Okay. That is definitely what I said.
You audibly heard the reframing of the stats right
it's
there.
That's along.
We are inside of the spin zone right now.
I think Casper is coming from behind, is what you're trying to say, Bob.
I mean, He would have to.
Do you guys remember watching that like weird cartoon?
Don't you dare say
Sasper.
Oh, yeah.
It's on
It's
YouTube.
dated. I'm going to put that out there.
It's not the.
It does not hold up to scrutiny today.
Yeah, that's probably true. I don't remember exactly.
Probably, Bob.
The only thing I remember is he talks about a childo, which I thought was
Well, the word
Okay.
childo is unimpeachably funny.
We just lost all of our funding on YouTube. Thanks, Bob.
Well, yeah. Demonetized.
Indiscretions of youths with access to flash animations.
Well, luckily for everybody listening, we're not going to review Sasper. We might review Casper. Make sure to get your votes in.
Or Night of the Demons.
Or Night of the Demons. Probably
good
not
movie.
the guest. Apparently nobody fucking wants to talk about that movie.
Well, look,
even
man,
though it's so fucking
you know what?
good.
I will say all three of these choices
They're
are
great.
pretty
They're good choices.
Yeah, they're bangers.
Night of the Demons, we have tried to get, or we've put in a poll pick at least 2 times.
At least
It's
twice,
true.
yeah.
Which is
that's
crazy.
true.
And the guest, this is at least the second time the guest
Yeah,
has been
I know.
on.
And I don't
That's
think
true.
I don't know if Casper's ever been.
The only time I think Casper might have been on is when we did Hocus Pocus because we were doing like kids horror.
That's possible, yeah.
But I can't confirm
I don't
that.
think that's the case, though, because I make
I don't think
graphics
so.
and
Yeah.
I don't remember
I don't
names.
think so.
Okay.
We could go back and look, but we're not going to do that right now.
Not now.
Make sure you get your votes in before the end of August. We'll see what we're talking about this September. In other Patreon news, we do have a brand new Patreon supporter we got to give mad shouts outs to. Big thanks to Wes W. for
Wes.
signing up and showing us some love on Patreon. We really appreciate it. Every dollar you guys contribute goes right back into the show. And as is tradition around these parts, we owe Wes the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Wes.
Oh, God, slap me in the ass.
Slap me in the ass.
I would like you to
Wes.
slap me inside of the ass like so.
Get in there, Wes. Is that our boy?
goddamn.
That's our boy, right?
I think this is a new Wes.
this is a different Wes.
This is not 1 a.m. West, but
Oh wow!
Oh,
but
Oh,
just
we have
indeterminate
just
time of the
we
day,
have
Wes.
competing Wes's.
yeah,
Ooh, which
they're
Wes
gonna have
will-
to battle to the death.
Which Wes will come out on top? We'll never know.
we will never know.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you. We really do
Cheers.
appreciate it. In other news, Let's Get Physical Media podcast is dropping a bonus episode.
Oh my God!
A bone ass.
A bone-ass episode. This Friday the 13th, you're going to be able to listen to Mikey and I's commentary on Friday the 13th, Part 2, everywhere you get your podcasts.
Bob, are you trying to compete with us or something?
Yeah, I am-
What's happening?
I'm
here?
competing with
What's
myself.
happening?
I'm not
here?
so happy with your mixed priorities here, bud.
Bob.
all I
mean,
do is
really?
win.
Are you just trying to steal our ideas?
No matter
over
what.
Here?
You know,
start the coup?
Dude, the coup is
Coup's
happening.
on.
you're starting the coup.
I'm starting the coup.
Hang on, Mr. Cooper.
Check out Let's Get Physical Media podcast everywhere you get your podcasts. That's all I got. You guys have anything you got to mention?
I guess just to reiterate, if you check us out on youtube.com/straight chilling podcast, this is something we've never done before, but we did do a live stream. If you're curious how the boys watch movies together, also we were joined by some special guests of our boy Corey and the lovely Alice.
Shouts
we
outs.
chat on some za, had some drinks, and watch Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
You can see how we do it.
Our method includes a lot of chatter about unrelated film.
How do we do it? We barely pay attention. That's how we do it.
That's how it's done.
Shouts outs to our boy Corey, who is here right now taking shots of us.
He's under the table. Let's
Taking
move on.
the shot.
live recording this shit. He's making us look good, like we know what we're doing.
He's just
somehow.
taking shots.
He's doing everything he can to cover my double chin, right?
We're begging
Right?
him not to drink all of the
Photoshop me
Malort.
into a teardrop.
into a teardrop.
I don't know.
I don't have any idea what that could possibly
Oh, He
mean.
knows. It's lingo.
Yeah, check that out
think you're
on
stroking out.
YouTube.
Stroking.
I think our house is
I can't play the bump.
clean.
This house is clean.
Bob, you're on bump duty this
Bob's
week.
on bump duty.
I'm on
Bob's bump.
We've just been rotating
duty.
the bump duty.
I know.
It's time
You're about
to
to
get.
see what it's like to have somebody who cares about when you play a bump.
Wow,
Fucking lame.
it's
Who
time.
did it best? Hashtag Soji.
Oh my god, we're getting into the main event. We're talking about Friday the 13th, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Are you going to use the real box this time?
I have the box in my
Thank
hand.
God.
Oh my God!
Is it blue?
We're finally
Bob?
no longer
'Cause that
frauds.
Yes, I have the Friday the 13th box set that was put out by Scream Factory last year, which does have the uncut version of Friday the 13th. That's what we watched. That's what we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
So Friday the 13th came out in 1980, runtime of an hour and 35 minutes, directed by Sean S. Cunningham, written by Victor Miller, stars Betsy Palmer, Adrian King, Janine Taylor, some other folks. Plot synopsis is as follows. Terror and suspense abound in this 24-hour nightmare of blood. Camp Crystal Lake has been shuttered for over 20 years due to several vicious and unsolved murders. The camp's new owner and 7 young counselors are readying the property for reopening despite warnings of a, quote, death curse by the local residents. The curse proves true on Friday the 13th as one by one each of the counselors is stalked by a violent killer. This film is widely acclaimed for its horrifying and creative murder sequences. Gentlemangs, had you seen Friday the 13th before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randy, kick us off.
And this is almost a silly question. So this is a seminal horror film that is really almost synonymous with the idea of horror films in most non-horror fans' minds, I feel like, to this day. At least this franchise. It's one of several, but it is certainly one. And I think, so I've seen it, yes. I've seen it many, many times. I saw it probably for the first time when I was like maybe 11 or 12, or too early, maybe. Some would argue. Not for me. And yes, I would absolutely recommend it if you have even the passing interest in horror, which you're listening to us, so I have to assume if you haven't seen this, you're missing a trick pretty hard. You got to watch this movie.
Juice?
Yeah, I absolutely would recommend people check this out. It's a little bittersweet watching it today because I know it's set in like June and it is a big time summer horror film. One of my favorites to watch in the summer. I think it's one of the most iconic summer camp films. There's some popular ones, but I think this one sets that stage, like Randy was saying before. Also, too, I think it's funny because I think Jason is one of the biggest horror icons, especially like to people who don't even enjoy horror, and yet that icon is not in this film. But I don't know. I think it's...
I tried.
What?
Yeah, I tried.
Spoiler
warning has not dropped yet.
Oh, well, I mean, the fact that icon is not in this movie isn't a huge spoiler.
It's a significant
spoiler. So the hockey mask Jason
That's
is
literally
not in
a
this
piece of
movie.
trivia
True.
that people use.
Continue.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Continue.
I would recommend. It's weird. We're watching it at the end of summer, so to me, it's almost like this is to me like the staple. Like this is the nail in the coffin. It's the end of summer. You got to watch it for summer horror. This is one of the best. Just watch it.
It's like that and Jaws are like the summer horrors.
Yeah. And normally, I think what's kind of like a little kind of sad. I'm not huge on summer, but normally I watch it toward the beginning of summer. It is set in June, and that's what feels like summer. But now we are heading into spooky season. It's almost like bye summer, So it's like, oh, this season is done. This type of horror is done. But it was nice to kind of
finally stop pretending.
End it that way. Yeah. So.
Tight.
Bob.
Yes.
Would you recommend the OG Friday the 13th?
Yes. Yes, I would. This is like required viewing as a horror fan. You owe it to yourself to watch this. It's a staple. It's really what like built the summer camp slasher movie that everybody is so familiar with. And they made like endless copies of this, ironically, because this was just a copy of Halloween and some other stuff. But yeah, when it comes to like summer horror, it's like, Return of the Living Dead, Jaws, Sleepaway Camp, and Friday the 13th. Those are the ones for me that come to mind.
Definitely,
you got to watch.
Camp.
Well, Sleepaway Camp being such
definitely.
a rip on this and being still kind of an underground hit, it's it's the cult version of the other two. But to me, they're all three required as well.
Yeah, you got to watch these movies. I'd seen it several times. I feel like that's not surprising to anybody. But watch this movie if you haven't already. Sorry, Justin ruined it.
If you need us to recommend that to you, I don't know how the hell you stumbled on this podcast.
That's true.
You never know.
We got a lot of youngins
This is a formality
out there,
at this point.
Yeah. Also, there's so many movies, it's impossible to see everything. So, who knows?
It's possible. I'm just saying, like, you don't need us to tell you for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
Slam your eyeballs into it. That's a solid recommend from the Straight Chilling crew. Now we're going to drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Alrighty. I do have the plot synopsis
Thank
typed up.
God,
Thank Christ.
Bob. Let's hear it.
Alrighty. In 1958, at Camp Crystal Lake, counselors Barry and Claudette sneak off for a little Rollin' Z hay and are murdered by an unknown person. Jump forward to present day, 1980, counselor Annie Phillips hitches a ride from a trucker to the reopening Camp Crystal Lake. The trucker explains a boy drowned there back in 1957. Annie then hitches another ride for the second half of her trip to the camp. From an unknown individual who chases her into the woods and slashes her throat. Now at Camp Crystal Lake, we see Ned, Jack, Bill, Marcy, Brenda, Alice, and owner Steve clean up the campgrounds in preparation for the campers' arrival. Steve leaves the campgrounds to get supplies, and while he's gone, Ned's throat is slit, Jack's throat is stabbed with an arrow, Marcy gets an axe to the head. Steve finally returns. He recognizes the mysterious killer and is then stabbed. Alice and Bill go to investigate their friend's disappearance. They find a bloody axe. The phone is cut. The phone line is cut. The truck is inoperable. The power eventually goes out, and Bill tries to get the generator up and running. Alice finds him dead and pinned to the door. Alice sees a car pull up and meets Miss Voorhees, who claims to be a friend of Steve's. She reveals the boy named Jason was her son. He drowned in 1957. She blames the counselors for his death as they were busy doing the horizontal mambo instead of watching her
Did
boy.
you write that?
Of course not. Miss Voorhees reveals herself as the killer and tries to kill Alice. Alice eventually decapitates Miss Voorhees with a machete. She then lays down in a canoe and floats out onto the lake and falls asleep. Jason's horrific body jumps up out of the water and attacks her. She then wakes up in a hospital, surrounded by doctors and a police officer. Alice asks, "What about the boy?" And the cop says, "There was no boy. What are you talking about?" And then Alice says, "Well, he must still be out there." Roll credits. That's the movie.
So what I've learned here is that Bob is going to be the type of dad that uses phrases like playing tonsil hockey and
Yes,
things like
100% will say that.
that. All right,
yes.
cool.
The revelation is Bob's going to be a father.
I've got
the pregnancy test right here.
dozens of illegits across the land. We all know this.
We all,
They're all vying for a piece of the pie.
This they're after my straight chilling podcast fortune, you know.
So please become a patron.
Got to support Bob's children.
Gotta pay Bob's lawyers.
my children. Shouts outs to G.
My childos.
Nope.
No. Yeah, that's the movie. Let's dive into this film.
You're going to Camp Blood, ain't you?
Yes, we are.
We are
indeed.
going.
Thanks, Ralph.
Sorry,
Going.
this is the one time on the behind the scenes where you won't get the bumps this week. Sorry.
Apologies.
Yeah.
What happens when the boys are back?
the boys are
back, right?
The boys are back.
You'll never come back again.
You'll
Never come back
never
again.
Come back again.
Well, God damn it, Ralph. Why are you being so negative?
You were on point, though.
I wonder why.
It's got a death curse. It's got a death curse.
It's got a
much.
death
This isn't a
curse.
ventriloquist act, Bob.
It's
Let's
got
get
a
back on
fucking death
track
curse.
here.
So yeah, we're talking about the seminal summer camp slasher film Friday the 13th. This when you think of Friday the 13th, you think Jason with a hockey mask, a
Yeah,
full
sorry
grown.
for that spoiler, I guess.
You think of a full grown man who's like terrifying, very strong, potentially supernatural, depending on what movie you're watching.
Yeah.
But none of that exists in this movie.
Correct.
When you watch this movie, whenever you see the killer, it's usually through like a POV shot. You might see a hand on occasion, but you have no sense of like who the killer really is until the very end of the movie.
Yeah.
And while you're watching it, at no point do you assume it's like an old ass lady.
Certainly not someone you've never met.
Yeah, that's true.
True.
There's no way for for you to
can't
guess that.
That's true. You can't guess.
I
it.
mean, you could, but it would be a fucking shot in the dark.
Yeah, it's an interesting. Like, this was spoiled for me before I watched it. Like, I assume probably most people. It
Oh,
was
really?
Spoiled. Yeah. So, like, I don't know how surprised I would have been, or if I would have like really enjoyed that reveal.
Well,
was it fresh
because
to
of the
you guys?
expectation? Yeah.
I
when you watched
honestly cannot recall the first time I watched Friday the
really?
13th. Like, it doesn't stick out in my mind. So I'm not sure how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Because I really just can't place it.
I definitely was surprised when I watched it. I was, like I said, I was like 11, maybe even like 10. And I was watching at my cousin's place, the two of us. He was even younger, so I'm sorry, Chris, if you're fucked up. It's probably
You're
this
fucked
movie's
up.
fault.
You fucked him up.
Yeah, I probably fucked you up, buddy.
He's dead in a gutter right now.
Jesus damn.
fucking
I really
Christ.
hope not. Now you got to take a shot of Malort for saying that.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's
how
your
that
penance.
works, apparently.
If I do,
anyway.
we all do, huh, Bob?
Oh, fuck me.
The rules keep changing. Anyway, but yeah, so that movie, it did surprise me because I was expecting Jason, and I was not upset. I was like, oh shit, this is like, to me, it's like, this is a movie, this franchise is seen as like the most successful dumb version of horror, like the franchise as a whole. It's like, you can watch it, you know what to expect. It's the basic thing. It's the fucking Waffle House of horror films. You know what you're getting. You know what I mean? But I didn't know what I was getting. I was like, okay, maybe there's some depth to this I didn't realize. And of course, I wasn't thinking about that exactly in those terms at that age. But I was like intrigued by the idea that it could do something other than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe this is like a more interesting thing than I thought. So,
Yeah, we were watching.
and for a while, it kind of was.
We were watching some of the bonus features on this disc here, and there was an interview with Sean S. Cunningham, the director. And one of the things he mentioned, which I think you were kind of touching on a little bit, was they were asking him, like, why is Friday the 13th so successful? Why did it blow up? Why are there so many of them? And the main thing he was talking about was its, like, reliability, its consistency.
Yeah.
You know exactly what you're going to get.
That's true.
And then he eventually referred to it as, like, quote, blue collar horror. And I was like, that's interesting. It's like, it's reliable. It's like, you know the mechanics. It shows up and like delivers exactly what you want for the most part until you get to like Jason X.
Well,
and,
I mean,
like,
yeah,
crazy
things-
stuff.
They
but-
do some off the wall stuff, but it's always like slight, or that's like maybe the most extreme variation
Yeah.
out of the bunch. And if you go into a Friday the 13th movie, nobody's going to walk into that theater without having the base knowledge of what generally the film's going to be.
Yeah, and that's fair too. I mean, because at this point we're kind of talking about the franchise. It's very interesting to me though. This franchise is able to lock down the kind of iconic status on a couple different things. One, the summer camp vibe, like just summer camp movies in horror. This one is a lock. And the hockey mask killer with the machete, which is interesting because that I don't think this is spoiled, but like doesn't even apply itself until the third movie in this franchise.
right, yeah.
That's pretty rare. Now, like as far as consistency goes, when we're comparing it to say like a Halloween type franchise, it really doesn't try to do some of the wild things that other franchises tries to do. Like even by part 7, part 8, we were talking about Jason Takes Manhattan tonight. I mean, yeah, they get into maybe some supernatural stuff. Oh, there's that one where he's a worm. That one's weird. But for
Jason Goes to Hell.
but for the most,
Which is great.
For the most part, it really is. It's not great.
It's great.
Is this like hulking giant with the machete, and yet some of the best entries in the franchise, 1 and 2, don't even include that.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is like as a franchise, it only looks forward. You know, Halloween does a lot of retrospection, a lot of lore building. Even when they eventually disregard that new lore, they're usually looking at the original in some way
That's
and
true.
really building on it.
That's
This
true.
series does not do that.
True.
Neither like Freddy does, or Nightmare on Elm Street kind of does the same thing as Halloween. But this is the only franchise I know that has gone as long as it has, as big as it has, while also like it only builds on an archetype almost more than, you know what I mean? Like it the first two, like you said, like they morphed so much. There are some standards, but they're mostly like you're building on the same thing. It does not concern itself with looking backwards at Mrs. Voorhees very often. It doesn't bother itself with looking back at, any of the previously established shit, any of the previous characters. Tommy Jarvis is the closest thing you get to an ongoing character. There's no Jamie Lee Curtis in this.
That's what I was thinking during this film. And even now I'm thinking, like, okay, I want to compare some of these franchises. I think Halloween's maybe the closest thing because he doesn't speak. He's just kind of this lurking shadow that's always coming after you that can't be stopped. And yet, like you said, there is no Jamie Lee Curtis opposite of a Michael Myers, and there's no even Loomis.
Well, there's no thread except for
there's
the
nothing,
archetype of the hulking giant killing people at a summer camp or beyond.
It really is the setting that makes it special.
True. There was a point when they were writing this, and like the movie was a hit. They were going into writing this sequel, and they wanted initially the character of Alice to make. I mean, she does come back in this second movie, but she doesn't
she gets
have
the
a
shaft.
big part. But they were going to try and turn her basically into a Laurie Strode, where she has to battle Jason Voorhees over and over again.
Yeah.
For one reason or another, that didn't happen. There's like conflicting information there. Like whenever you see her in an interview, she says specifically that she was down to be like the lead in the film and would have done whatever they wanted. And when you talk to like producer on the movie, they're like, well, she was being stalked in real life by mega fans and was legitimately terrified and said that if she was going to return, she wanted to be a very minuscule part. And that's what happened ultimately in the second film.
In that situation, I tend to believe the person without the lawyers.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah, I totally agree. But yeah, so like you guys were saying though, like the setting is really like what is established here in this original film. The killer is not, and the killer is beheaded at the end of this first film,
and does not ever return except as specters.
Yeah.
It does set up like the lore though, because it sets an established why.
Right.
So we have a setting, we have a why. But I did find it interesting that they were like, we don't care about any of these characters. And it's maybe a positive for the franchise to be able to push itself as long and like recreate itself as long as it's been able to. But for this movie, this time around, I thought of it as a flaw for the movie itself. Because there's no one that's particularly distinct except for their ridiculous clothing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, they feel okay enough as people, but they really all are just fodder, and at no point did I feel like anybody was indistinguishable from anyone else.
See, okay, I feel differently than that, which is surprising.
I think they're
to me.
distinguishable.
Yeah, and to me, they are distinguishable. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that they are characters that are
deep.
They're not fully fleshed out.
They're not fully fleshed out characters.
Yeah.
They're archetypal characters.
Yeah.
But and what's interesting is that this movie goes a long way in establishing archetypes as the standard. So you have the goofball who plays tricks. You have the sex positive chick who's going after somebody hard. You have two. I'll give you this: Kevin Bacon. If it wasn't Kevin Bacon, I wouldn't be able to tell him.
Dick
from Bing
dragging
Crosby's
around a
dick.
body.
So-
Kevin Bacon.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon's dick is its own character. And then you've got the girl who gets
The
like
slab of bacon.
just
Bacon
whole
and sausage, am I right, boys?
Oh, man.
God damn.
couple pancakes too. Anyway, yes. So and there are
Flapjacks.
characters that I will say fit your description, but I would say there's more. I was watching this with Rob earlier this week, and I remember saying to you, I was like, these characters are more distinctive than I remember them being, or I give them credit for normally. And it's not because they're particularly effectively distinctive, but Alice is very distinctive to me as like being like she is a final girl. She fits that mold in a time when that was not necessarily an established trope, a necessity of the genre. And then you've got, I don't know, you've got a few characters that I think
The
go
owner of
beyond
the
what you're
camp,
describing.
Steve, is like somewhat distinct. We don't spend a whole lot of time with him. Most of the time, he's actually just like out at the diner or like running errands or whatever.
Yeah.
But like you get a decent sense of him. Like he's in this sort of like strange, conflicted relationship with Alice, and then
One scene.
one scene, yeah. But there's like I think that gives you some information about him,
I guess.
and he definitely looks like a porn star. So like I don't really know what's
That
going on
dude
with that.
definitely has sex for money.
Yeah, see that to me that was the only scene. Now I know we're like talking through it, but like that was the only scene that had any kind of depth to it, though. That scene where they were talking, because once he leaves, what do these people do? Three of them play strip Monopoly.
Yeah.
They
Two
swim.
of them bang it out.
They swim
They go
earlier than
swim.
that.
They swim. I mean, there's nothing that like builds any.
Well, there's not a lot of drama. There's no dramatic arcs. Is that what you're describing?
Well, not even dramatic arcs. There's like two, brunette, maybe even three. I mean, aside from the woman who starts off hitchhiking, but there's like two brunettes
I
who
guess
just
that's
are
the
kind of
third.
like interchangeable. To me, there's nothing about these characters where I'm like, oh no, that person died. They have a sister that cares for them. Like, there's no
Drama to it.
distinguishing
They're red shirts.
factors. Yeah, they're not even just like drama to it. They're just, I couldn't tell you anything about this person that I just saw killed. And usually when you see somebody die, you want to care
Know
about them in
something,
some
right. Yeah,
way.
yeah,
No,
Yeah.
I'll give you that. And there's definitely characters like that. I will say that to me, that while that does give a slight bit of drama, that scene bothers me as well as the entire character of whatever Christie, the camp owner guy. What was his name?
His
It
name
doesn't
was
matter.
Steve
Mustache.
Christie. Steve
So
Christie.
Porn Stash, his whole character bothers me because they have that moment, and then the rest of the film he spends off camp in a diner, in a car with a cop, like trying to get home in the rain, and then he gets stabbed, and that is it.
I want to reiterate that Steve Christie is 100% banging that old lady that works at the diamond.
Oh yeah, that old lady can get it, and she has gotten it.
Steve takes wild swings. He goes super young and goes super old.
Wild swings.
The pendulum swings far. on
He's-
old
look,
Steve.
passing out the mustache
He
rides.
might be a sex addict, but whatever.
I don't know. I mean, you've got like the jokester Ned who like dresses up like an Indian and he's kind of obnoxious. We've got the character of Bill who's like pretty forgettable, except for the fact that he's Bing Crosby's nephew, which is pretty cool.
Oh, it's his nephew. I thought it was his son.
Nephew, yeah, and he
I think you said Thunder. though.
plays guitar.
I said son earlier.
I don't know.
Okay.
They're related in some
They're
way.
related.
Kevin Bacon is all dick. Marcy's all nipples.
Marcy is all nipples.
Alice
My God.
is like we spend a shitload of time with Alice, but she's still not very fleshed out.
I'll agree to that.
I don't know that I could say much about her character.
Nobody's looking at these characters and saying, "Wow, that's a really compelling character."
Yeah, as far as the final girl, she's got to be the weakest that I
She's
can
one of
think
the weakest for sure, and it's partially because of the writing. Because
Yeah, not because of her. It's an actress.
no, yeah, she
Yeah,
does
she-
fine as an actress.
yeah, she
She's
does a great job.
She
Yeah.
does just as well in her acting role as. God, I'm forgetting her name. Nancy from fucking Nightmare.
Nancy?
I would say she's just not given the meat of the role that is required to make that memorable. I would argue.
Yeah, because like Alice starts off strong, where she's like a little bit worried about her friends and like their disappearance, but then when they find
there's
the
a romantic
bloody
angle, too.
axe in the bed. And like they find out the phone line is cut, and they find out the car mysteriously won't crank up anymore. Like nobody's like super worried at that. Like what's just her and Bill.
And that's the thing is like she like embodies the I would say negative stereotype to some extent of especially women like final girls in horror films, where she makes a bunch of like the most dumb tropey mistakes. She drops weapons. She throws yarn at the killer.
She takes
like
a nap.
She takes a
And
fucking nap
makes
after
coffee.
finding a bloody axe. She takes a nap and makes coffee.
I would say, like, to be fair, I like the way there was some of that. Like, that's fair. But it wasn't like, oh, we found a dead body and then she does those things. Like, the killer is able to pick people off pretty stealthily, and you don't start seeing the bodies dropping until she's running for
All I'm
life. So I
saying-
kind of liked that.
All I'm saying is that as a final girl, if I'm watching, if she's the pivotal character, if she's the one you're pivoting around,
Yeah.
the minute you find that axe, your ass is walking to town.
Yeah.
If it has to be in the rain, so fucking be
Yeah.
it. If it has to be 20 miles, so fucking
Even
be
if
it.
you don't take a walk in the rain, like you're not napping, you're doing something.
Yeah, you're
or
at
making
least
coffee
alert.
to help
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
You're doing something.
And
Yeah.
she only did that as a method for the screenwriter to move the thing along, and that is the stereotype. It's that these are not real characters; they're
Yeah.
plot plot devices themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to progress the plot, and it would be easier to do that if she takes a nap. So you write it in.
Yeah.
She
It's like, what does she
naps.
do? She just fucking takes a nap.
Yeah, this was written
Yeah.
in like 2 weeks, by the way. So like they didn't spend a lot of time on it.
In the special features that we watched, they were like the marching orders to making this. The Cunningham was approached and said, "We want to rip off Halloween." Like that, point blank, what he was told. That's why they start out with a previous trauma of and a flashback with a first person view killer. Like, that's why they do all that shit, because Halloween did it. So, like, this movie, more than any other, is probably the most successful ripoff of Halloween you'll ever find. This whole franchise, really.
God, it really is the setting.
Yeah, the setting makes it
that
interesting.
Carries this so far, which is interesting. Also, I like the idea. One thing I do like this is separates it from the Halloween or whatever. And the characters, while they are flat, feel fairly authentic in what they're doing. They're not deep characters, but I never feel like anybody's putting on some kind of weird, crazy act.
Yeah.
They're young teenagers that are counselors at a thing, and like, yeah, they don't react to a bloody act probably as appropriately as they should, but they're not asking these kids or these people to do anything that's overly like theatric or unbelievable.
Yeah, they're just having conversations
playing-
about generators and shit.
Yeah,
Like,
they're playing strip Monopoly. They're just young people.
I would say they're
hanging
decent
out.
actors.
Yeah, and I think that is okay. Like, that's what is intriguing about this area and this space, because it feels real in a way. And yeah, people drop weapons and stuff like that, but they're also not doing like crazy, unbelievable things.
That's
For the
almost what
most
makes
part.
those things so egregious, is that
Yeah.
these aren't sleepaway camp characters where they're so over the top all the time that when they do something stupid, you're just like, yep, of course they would. There's people that are doing stupid things despite being like able to, jury rig a generator or fucking, dream up strip Monopoly or whatever else. Like, they're doing these things pretty capably up until the point where the plot needs them to fuck up.
Yeah.
And then the plot tells them to fuck up. And the other thing, well, I don't know. I lost my train of thought on the other thing. So,
Well, something I wanted to touch on, like we mentioned how this was directly a ripoff of Halloween, like that's what they were instructed to do.
Yeah.
And it is a slasher movie for sure, and it references Halloween in certain ways. But also, like, as we were watching this movie, we were talking about how the ending is really the most memorable part of it. And it seems more like Psycho, or the inverse of Psycho, than like anything to do with Halloween's ending.
and the other, I'm sorry, this is actually tying into what I was thinking about earlier.
Okay.
In addition to that, the difference between this and Halloween is the gore.
Yeah.
There, like in Halloween, a lot of the gore is like a slice here, a cut there, an off-screen kill. Somebody, they find bodies, but there's not a whole lot of. You don't see somebody get beheaded in fucking Halloween in the first, when they're
Yeah.
ripping this off. This is the movie that brings the gore factor to the idea of a Michael Myers style slasher, and I think that even more than maybe the setting is why this movie succeeded, and
Shout out to
that is the defining thing about
Tom
the series.
Savini killing it on
Exactly.
the practical
That's
effects.
true.
Yeah.
I was trying to think though, it's so hard because Friday the 13th franchise is such an iconic franchise, and it has so many memorable kills. Because there's not so many iconic characters, it almost derives itself from like, what does Jason normally do to people?
Jason is the protagonist in much of the franchise.
Whereas this one, they are lacking in the sense of the franchise, because obviously that's where they take it. They go bigger and they get more creative. In this one, I mean, the arrow through the throat, the guy who's hung up on the wall, which is a little bit of a rip, like
With
from
arrows.
Halloween.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
We do get an axe to the face, which looks good. So shouts outs for Tom. But I mean, it really is the drag into the lake from the kid. I mean, that still is.
We get
like
a
the
couple-
That's definitely more definitive of a thing.
A
than
couple people
Halloween.
die
Yeah.
off screen too. Like we don't.
Yeah.
So like Brenda goes out to
Yeah.
the archery range, and you would assume she'd be shot with arrows.
Yeah.
But when we see her thrown through the window, she doesn't have arrows in her.
There's
Her
nothing
throat is
distinct.
cut.
But I think
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
the reason, like, that's not true of the whole franchise, and I think the reason is because it became known for that, and so it began to ramp up from there.
Yeah.
That's the seed of the rest of the franchise, and by extension, the rest of slasher films, and by extension, how people think about horror films.
I think
True.
so too. Yeah.
Yeah.
The sequel, part 2, was actually cut even more. So like this movie, nobody thought was going to be anything, and then it blew up, made a shitload of money. So the MPAA like cracked down on the sequel even more than they did on the first one, and they made them cut a lot of shit. It's really
damn.
not very gory, to be honest, but the kills are more inventive, and what you do see is like a little more like tantalizing, in my opinion.
Okay.
Well, they're things you wouldn't go into. Like I'm thinking at that in that era, they are the most inventive kills you're going to see on screen.
Yeah.
You know, and so that became the staple, and that became what, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street tried to replicate through a even more creative of a concept, like, you know, using a more creative like setting or realm. And that's why those things succeeded. That's what they were aiming for. And there's a lot of other reasons they succeeded, of course. There's a lot of external factors and a lot of factors about the films themselves and each individual film, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that's kind of the crux of it. As much as I like the summer camp thing, I think that the summer camp thing and how we think about that as like a great horror environment, I think that's a byproduct of this film's legacy, not the other way around.
Yeah. One thing I liked was the character that we're introduced. I think her name is Katie, introduced to at the beginning. I like it. Kind of reminded me of Scream a little bit, which I know Scream came much later. And the big thing about that was Drew Barrymore was the character that played it. They kind of got the axe in the early, you know, scenes. But
Talk about the hitchhiker.
yeah,
Hitchhiker.
so
Annie.
I'm sorry, not Kate. So Annie, I like that she's almost set up like she's going to be the main one.
Yeah.
Because you spend more time with her. She has a little bit more personality. You see her like talk to her dog, and not her dog, but a dog. You see her
about
talk.
a dog's dick.
You see her like kind of conversing with the driver, and then also the people in like the little cafe or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I like that kind of swerve, because it almost sets up this idea of like, don't go into this with expectations.
And that's the thing, is like, I think that those come from our years of external knowledge that that people watching this film originally had no benefit from.
Yeah.
And and that's, you can look at it either way, but I'm just in me trying to think about what this film was made for and how people would receive it. I agree with you. I think like that she is set up to be the protagonist and they kill her off early. And that is very much like Drew Barrymore in Scream.
Yeah.
And people were shocked by that, because that exact tack had not been troped by the franchises, by the slashers, because they more focused on the Alice character and and the Jamie Lee Curtis characters. Those were the standards. Having this sort of like intro character that you are interested in and then who falls, that was not a trope until I think Scream sort of brought it back. Interestingly.
Yeah, Wes Craven killed that shit. I wanted to mention...
Solid 1 star.
No. I wanted to mention, like, Miss Voorhees being the killer. Like, after we're introduced to this old-ass lady, like, if you consider everything that she was able to do throughout this whole movie, including throwing a dead body through a window, like, she would have to be in great shape to pull all this
movie
off.
definitely sets up the trope of unrealistic kills or unrealistic abilities of the killer to be in 3 places at once and in this particular case, be able to physically do things that a normal 50-year-old woman could never do.
That's the biggest one. Also, I guess in a way, like theatrics of it, unnecessary. Like the guy hung up on the door. And the
he, like,
arrows.
falls down.
The guy,
and then there's somebody in a tree.
The guy in the tree. It's like you
why
don't even
would
see
you
him in a
put
tree.
somebody in a tree?
Why would you put somebody in a tree? And also,
It's a Halloween
how would he
ripoff.
swing there? Like exactly. Like it's a Halloween ripoff. They did that in Halloween, but there was
they opened the cupboard door, whatever it is.
he was in a
closet
cupboard,
door.
and that was crazy enough. But at least that was done by a giant
man.
psychopath and
Yeah.
not a small psychopath.
Old woman.
like small old
a
psychopath.
frail old lady.
Not frail. She gets in that
apparently
mud
she's
fight later on.
thick.
Well, dude, she's
all
in that
about
mud
them
fight, and I'll give her
groceries, am I
that.
right,
She-
Corey?
when her and Alice are rolling around on the ground, she's putting up a fucking fight. That lady's
Yeah.
been in a bar brawl before. I guarantee
She
it.
eats
I
a
don't
lot of
mean
stew.
Pamela. I mean the actress Betsy has fucking been in a bar brawl. I'll bet you money.
She is The only reason she did this, I think she was retired for like 10, 15 years,
Yeah.
and then she came back to do this movie.
So she could buy a car, right?
Yeah, she got the script and read it, and
Okay.
apparently said like, "This is a piece of shit," and literally threw it in the garbage, and then was like, "Well, probably nobody will watch it, and I'm gonna get like, I don't know, 20 grand for a week's worth of work, so." Whatever, and she went and like dug it out of the trash and did it and got
Hell
paid
yeah.
and bought a car, and then of course it's like the thing that she's fucking known for now.
And she
That's very
almost
funny.
I don't know if she's still alive. Is she? I hope.
I think she just
So-
passed away.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
in
That's sad. And
2015,
R.I.P.
maybe.
Okay.
But I sincerely appreciate the hustle
Yeah,
of
fuck
all
it.
of that.
yeah.
Get you a whip,
Dude,
Yeah,
you
no
know,
shade.
and like, but she also like I've seen the interviews I've seen with her makes it seem like she's kind of resentful that that's her most known role because she definitely still
Yeah, I
doesn't
don't-
care about the franchise.
I don't like that type of perception, but it's another interesting way. Fucking Kevin Bacon. I mean, we've seen
Yeah.
it again. Texas Chainsaw 4 had
McConaughey.
McConaughey and the woman
Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, Renee. Like and also Jennifer Aniston, Leprechaun.
Yeah.
I love seeing these.
Zell
Like proto
bigger,
stars.
yeah.
Zellweger like refuses to acknowledge that she was in that
Yeah.
Texas Chainsaw movie.
Which, to be fair,
It's bad, but like everybody knows it's
Own
you.
your shit. The thing is, like,
just-
you're
Yeah,
not
but
going to
that's
lose
not-
decorum, in my opinion.
but
Like,
that's not as iconic. Like to say,
No,
like, oh, I'm
no.
ashamed of my position in Friday the 13th. Like people revere this movie as
people love you because of this.
yeah,
movie.
one
And
of the
so there's-
most
I can
like
see what you're saying.
iconic horror franchise films
Yeah.
is this film, and to be
And
like,
did you-
I
was
don't
it-
want people to know. It's like, come on.
I'm trying to remember. There was a Pamela character in Freddy vs. Jason. Was that her? Did they bring her back? I can't remember.
I don't remember. I've
have
seen
to
that
look it
movie
up.
like 1.5 times.
Are you serious?
I'm
I've seen
not
it, like,
super familiar with
6
it.
times. At
She's
least.
been
I
in
think
more
so,
though, at
fro-
least the voice.
So, well, she definitely came back. I think she's only been in the first two,
Okay.
based on trivia that I've read.
But she was not really in the second one.
Well, she came back and they shot like one new scene with
Oh,
her
really?
where
I didn't
she's a
remember that.
disembodied head talking to Jason, basically.
Okay, yeah.
So her character isn't really in it. It's like he's having a vision of her.
Yeah.
But they did have to shoot it new. So she's technically in 1 and 2. But she, like when she was doing interviews and stuff, like at conventions, she legit forgot she did the shoots for part 2 and would insist that she was only in part 1.
that was not.
maybe she didn't see the second one.
I mean, she probably did.
She didn't see the
You're
first
probably-
one, according to her.
Yeah.
Like she, and by the way, I just looked it up. She was not in Freddy vs. Jason. That was a stand-in.
I was
guess.
just looking at it too.
Yeah, so just the first 2 then. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Paula Shaw played Pamela Voorhees in Freddy vs.
And she did a good
Jason.
job picking up the baton. I'll say. I like that movie.
Me
It's a
too.
goofy fucking
I wish
movie.
we would cover that movie.
We should one day.
I'm sure we
One
will
day
eventually.
In
In another 330
I mean, you know, we've
episodes.
only done this for 7
We're going to be
years.
doing this deep into Armageddon,
I
For
hope,
I
sure.
hope so.
I hope so.
which will be next year sometime.
We'll
I'm
be
sure.
the last men standing or sitting,
Just casting.
talking, just jawing on.
I really like Monica Keener in this film. She does a great job.
Still,
teeth are falling out.
still underground celebrities, you know.
Still underground celebrity. Everybody's dead. We're somehow celebrities. Yeah. Okay.
Underground celebrities.
Literally mole people celebrities.
Yeah. Can we talk about Marcy's fucked up dream where she's talking about it raining blood and then
Do
the
we
blood
have
turning
to?
into like rivers?
That's maybe the most forgettable thing about this movie. We watched that. We had to roll it back when we watched it.
Yeah,
Just the two of
yeah,
us.
yeah.
And while we were streaming, I still didn't pay much attention. I can't listen to that shit.
It's like supposed to be ominous.
I know it is.
but it lands with a bit of a thud. But it's also like she's talking to Kevin Bacon, and it's just before they go banging out. And like, if you were sitting there hearing this stuff, would you be like, yeah, but I'd still beat? Like, I don't. It's just like a weird.
teenagers, Bob, and they're
I'm so deep.
It's
I
a-
mean,
it's
I
a
don't know. If
weird
you're out
thing.
at a camp and you're looking for a bang,
Honestly, I'll agree with that. Like, having spent much of my time in summer camp, there's a lot of people who will posture.
Randy's just fucking at camp. Just fucking.
I don't
What
know.
I was gonna say is that people will posture deep thoughts,
Yeah.
you know, for one reason or another, for social clout, essentially, whether it be to get banged or to get, you know, somebody's attention, you know, what I mean?
And
And that extends from campers to counselors for sure.
yeah, and from both ends, just being like, okay, I'll deal with this until
I'll deal with this.
Yeah. No, and that's the other thing is like, do you really think Kevin Bacon gave a shit? That woman's nipples were present.
Yeah, they were ready to
They
go.
were standing ready
At
to vote.
Ready to vote?
They were ready to go.
I am ready to vote.
Standing at attention, standing up for a cause, and that cause was Bacon Dick.
Etc. Etc. What about Harry
Did we mention
Manfredini's
we're drinking?
score? We gotta.
Gonna get tore up.
I feel like the score
Oh,
of this
yeah.
of this
Good
movie
call, Bob.
is insanely iconic, and like when you hear it, you know what it is. But to hum it is a bit difficult because it's just like string stabs, basically. Like
What
it
is that?
It's not you. Yeah.
That too. I mean, that's
What
part
is
of it.
that?
So that is
think
a
they
literal
made that.
human voice
Okay.
saying the words "kill" and then "mom." Kill, 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 mom, mom.
Really?
But what's interesting is that
Okay.
everybody interprets it differently.
True.
That I remember. I think it was like Crystal Lake Memories or something. They went around asking people to do it, and everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, I heard it as
that's kind of how
or
I.
cha 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 cha. It's like
Chi
as
chi
long as
cha
it's
cha.
E and then ah, or like and then in some way,
Yeah.
it works. And that's what's interesting about it is you can't tell what they're saying,
Right.
but knowing that impetus makes a lot of sense. And it,
And that is Harry Manfredini's voice, apparently.
Okay.
Actually saying that, yeah.
I was gonna say. I mean, I will say, we played Friday the 13th. We were talking about this during the stream a couple years ago. The game, and that sound effect specifically comes up when Jason is within your vicinity.
Yeah.
Like not obviously right next to you, but like he's probably can see you or he's coming for you, and that shit ramps up tension immediately. As someone like trying to be like, I'm trying to survive, I gotta run into this cabin, I gotta like jump through this window, I gotta do these
It's
things.
an alarm.
That sounds
like.
is so fucking effective.
So, and what we said during the stream or whatever. So, Manfredini was talking about it in those bonus features Bob and I were watching, and what he said. I have never played this game, so what you're saying makes perfect sense, though, as almost even a reference, because Manfredini's approach to the film was to never use a score, period, to be completely silent unless the killer was on or around the character on screen.
Okay.
So, and with the exception of like one or two scenes. So the idea that would be almost like alarm bells, you know what I mean? That makes perfect sense for the game and is a brilliant move on their part for both reasons. And actually, when you described that, I immediately thought of the Guardians from Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you suddenly hear that fucking piano music and you're like,
Oh yeah.
oh shit.
I gotta move my asshole. Right, Bob?
You got to move your asshole. Bobby Jarvis says, haul some ass.
Bobby Jarvis. If you want a good laugh, go back and check out our
Bobby
YouTube
Jarvis.
page and watch Bob just jog through Camp Crystal Lake.
Endlessly. Just doing nothing.
Just jogging.
Just sucking at video games.
That was a lot. That was a lot of fun, though. Bob
Yeah.
joining us on that and getting the whole crew together. That was
It was fun.
That was a
I was
lot
sad
of
to
fun.
miss it.
It was fun. We should do it again eventually.
Randy gotta get that Xbox, that sex box done.
Well, we got to get more patrons then.
God damn it, Ralph, get out of here.
Can't afford. What?
oh
we
wait,
have- we
we
haven't-
missed it.
We haven't talking about.
God.
We got to get into Ralph.
It's got a death curse.
Ralph
It's
is
got
the goat.
Here's the thing, though, that I actually found kind of weak in this go around.
Okay.
Is because they kind of set up Ralph as the red herring, right? He's crazy.
Yeah.
Even the cop gives the warning.
He's in
about
the
him-
cupboard, pops
yeah,
out.
about him being arrested before. But here's the thing: is Annie?
Yeah.
She sees Ralph.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
Yeah.
She gets a ride from somebody. She gets off at the cemetery. She gets a ride with somebody
Gets
else.
off at the cemetery.
She gets off.
We
of
all
course.
do, really.
Yes. But then she gets in the car with the killer because we see that the killer actually, she jumps out of the Jeep or whatever. That's obviously not Ralph because she knows who Ralph is.
Well, Ralph drives a bike.
Well, and I know, but still, the setup is Ralph is like
Right.
They completely throw that out before they even set up the idea that he's the killer when he shows up out of the cupboard.
I'll be honest with you. Like, the time I've seen this movie probably 7 or 8 times. The first time I saw it, I described already. At that time, I was not really aware of the idea of the Harbinger character. You know, Cabin in the Woods was still some years off, guys. I'm an old man.
Yeah.
And so like to me, that would have been the time I would have seen him as a red herring, and I definitely didn't.
Okay.
I definitely still saw him as like, man, this crazy old man is dropping some knowledge on these kids, even though he is clearly like a spittle spewing weirdo, and like it's hilarious.
needs
That
to
performance is
yeah.
fucking hilarious. And
He's a real prophet of doom, ain't he?
he is a real prophet of doom. And I don't know, like, so, but later on, that got replaced with, oh, here's the Harbinger archetype.
Yeah, we saw it in like My Bloody Valentine this year, like how they started hammering that home later on.
So I guess I
series.
never experienced the idea of him being a red herring until you just saying that right now, which to me, yeah, I definitely can see what you're saying. I can definitely hear what you have to say. Like that makes sense. But it almost, to me, it never came up. To me, it was always, this is the guy who knows the real truth, but is too crazy seeming to be taken seriously.
Well, I think the problem is they set him up and the cop comes out and he specifically says he's been arrested. We know he's crazy. He's kind of got this looming, intimidating feel. And like Bob said earlier, there's no one else. We don't see Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
There's no other one that they allude to as this is the killer.
I don't, yeah, and I can't decide.
It's like a Scooby-Doo thing where there's no other... you're possibility.
Right. But like to me, I wonder. Like part of me, I agree with you, and the movie could have benefited with some more red herrings, maybe. And maybe the idea was to have like maybe that weird cop be a red herring who calls weed grass, dig it.
I guess
that shit.
Can you dig it?
At a certain point, you could think Steve Christie is a red herring until he comes back to camp and gets killed. But like when he's gone,
but they show a lot of him chilling at a diner. Yeah,
but yeah, true. But
maybe
like,
that old lady's it.
30 minutes. You don't really know where he's
That's
at.
true.
That's true. I mean, I guess you could, until you see that.
But
maybe
there's not a
That
lot.
is a
You're
real
right.
There's
missed
not a lot. But to me,
opportunity.
like, I wonder, like that, disregarding that, having Pamela show up as a fully fledged new character right before she's revealed to be the killer, I kind of love that on some level, because it's so jarring. It's so like, I don't know, man. It's like the killer only reveals themselves when they want to be fucking revealed. It's not before. Like if you're talking about this idea of this character who is so stealthy. We talked about that during the stream. She's so stealthy. She can do X, Y, and Z, and she can like perfectly manipulate these kids into sticking around, even though she's like clearly a deranged killer. But then you fucking having her show up as the fully fledged villain last second, and then get to monologue her way to that conclusion. I kind of love that scene of her getting there and like being just like, I'm a new person. And I'm here to kill you. Like
I like watching that evolution because when she's on screen, she demands attention.
Yeah, she's a very confident personality.
100%, yeah.
And she's so new that you're like already at attention.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching that conversation and her revealing herself as a killer. But once you have time to like chew on that bit of new information and think about her doing all the things that you've just seen, it falls apart for me.
Absolutely.
Then.
Yes. Yeah. But like the logic of her being able to do that is the problem.
Yeah. But yeah, it is a solid reveal.
I think that I just like the reveal. I kind of like the decision to do that. I don't know if it was a cognizant decision because a lot of this movie suggests that they were not making salient decisions about stuff.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fly by the seat of your pants sort of shit.
Yeah.
So it's tough to really, it's tough to both give credit and ding for a lot of this shit, at the same time. But I love that scene of her like being like, oh, maybe it's someone here to save you, but she's kind of menacing and oh shit, she's talking to herself. Okay, this is the killer. Like I kind of love that like quick transition within like 2 minutes you get there, less than that. I kind of love that. And I kind of don't want to trade that for anything. I wish there were other red herrings, but I don't know that I would introduce her as a character earlier.
I guess there's other hints within that too. She pulls up in a Jeep, and if you
that's
thought
true, too.
back
Yeah, that's a good point.
to what happened, but you're not really thinking about those things.
Yeah, I wasn't.
But if you
I never
know
do,
the
actually.
fact you could go back, and,
Also, Steve Christie drives the exact same Jeep.
really,
Red herring.
Oh yeah, that's right. He
Yeah.
does.
okay,
It's just top up versus top down. That's the only difference.
okay,
I stopped paying attention to the
huh?
Jeep.
All right.
But yeah, so I mean, I think there's something to that. If they had maybe harped on the red herring of Steve Christie more, and maybe not shown him at the diner, but instead shown him like after a while, shown him like by his broken down car, that would have been enough. As much as I love the lady at the diner, and I love the shot of the diner that we talked about during the stream. Like, it's a good shot. It's like it's
It
just
is.
very cinematic
It's
looking with the
nice,
word
yeah.
diner over top.
Yeah.
It just looks great. And, that lady, she's like just she's a character, she's a character actor doing a great character. But I would trade that in exchange for a good red herring that is genuinely set up as believably the killer for a majority of the film. But he's really not because of that. And I also don't know. Maybe the whole romantic angle with him and Alice is supposed to indicate that in some way, but the fact that she's not interested in sticking around for him,
Maybe
she's like,
it
stick
makes
around
him
through
make
Friday.
less trustworthy because we were talking about how much older he is.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, and the other thing, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think that anything we saw of him, even with Alice, is indicative of him being more than. Like, the most you could assume is that he's a spurned lover and something.
His death was kind of a bummer.
And it was so quick.
Yeah, it's like we're going to introduce you to this guy, and he's really like
It
his
makes it seem like
relationship
he's so
with Alice.
inconsequential. Like-
Yeah, it really does because he's actually set up a couple times.
Yeah.
Because even when Annie is hitchhiking, it's talked about like, oh, this guy bought this, he put all this money into it. Why is he doing it? Then we get his whole scene with her where it's like this romantic, maybe kind of situation. It's the only kind of depth that we get. Then he disappears, and okay, maybe he's set up as a red herring. He's just in this random diner that's inconsequential, and then he just dies
Immediately upon
yeah,
arrival.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, man,
agree.
that's kind of a poor choice.
I wish that logically, having talked about it right now, he seems like he could be a decent red herring, but it's not played well enough to where
It's
I
not.
got that in any of my viewings, and I've seen this a lot of times.
And he's also, like we've already mentioned, a little bit of like a creepy character when he's sort
Yeah.
of like brushing Alice's hair, and she doesn't
Yeah.
seem to be receptive and like kind of like shuns him a little bit. So like there's some nods there.
and he's going through her drawings and seems like he could
Yeah.
be jealous.
Yeah.
he's
or,
being drawn by
Yeah.
her. So to me, that is like maybe part of the problem is that it's almost like they are in a relationship and she is done with a relationship, and that might be enough, like on paper, to set him up as a potential killer. You know what I mean? But it just doesn't play that way, and the way maybe it's the performance that just seems more forthright and less suspicious than it ought to be.
Maybe so.
Because look at the other kid, like look at fucking Ralph. You're telling me this guy couldn't have played it a little more sinister to
Pretty
maybe
care blood, ain't ya?
you couldn't have played it just sinister enough to be more believable as a potential killer. Maybe
It's
that's
got a death curse.
okay.
God damn it, Ralph, get out of here.
Okay, that's why you don't have the bumps anymore.
Dude!
That's why you don't have the bumps
That's
anymore.
why, no other reason.
I've played like maybe 8 bumps in the past hour. Okay, that's not that bad. That's not that bad.
And all back to back just now.
Whatever. Gentlemen, I don't know. We kind of need to land the plane. Is there
Sure.
anything else you guys want to touch on, though? I don't want to rush us here.
I could just wrap it up.
Did we
probably.
spend enough time with the ending?
Yeah. When you went to take a huge shit,
Okay,
Rainey
yeah.
and I were talking about that a little bit.
Oh,
Is there anything
goddamn
else
it.
you want to mention? Though?
Well, I don't know. During it, we were talking about how it changes visually. We were talking about the music. It changes visually. It changes
okay.
sonically.
the canoe scene we didn't really touch on.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
I mean, do
Let's
we
talk about
want
that.
to?
Sure.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about
Do it,
that
do it.
together.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, one, the explanation is ridiculous. Why would you run away in a canoe?
Yeah. Yeah.
But then also, it does. I like the shot. I think the shot's beautiful because we spend most of the time during the day. I mean, at night. We spend most of the time at night. There are a couple day shots, but they're not as vibrant.
Well,
as
you've
this
been
shot.
in the dark for so long at that point,
Like-
and in the rain.
And this one feels so vibrant, like the green in the trees, and then there's like a couple trees that are red.
And they're reflecting in the lake.
It's just a
Yeah,
beautiful
it is a-
scenery.
it
They
is a
don't
beautiful
spend time
shot.
on the scenery.
The
in
music
other
changes
shots.
very distinctly.
It
too.
does.
Yeah.
And this, it's a really I would like when I was watching it. I mentioned, and I said this on the stream, and also when I was watching with Bob, it reminds me of the film Housekeeping, which is heavily reliant musically on some like slow piano keys or whatever, like
But they're also
quietly
kind of uplifting.
fantastical, but
Yeah.
uplifting, but also sinister in some way. And I think it does a great job at that. But like I said, the Manfredini's approach to that, we found out from bonus features after our first viewing this week, was that he was not going to play music other than when the killer was around. At that point, the killer's dead. And so he's playing this music that is completely separate from anything else that you've heard so far in this film. It is another piece that he's written for something else, and he's playing this piano version, and it's used basically to lull you into a false sense of security so that they can, quote unquote, pull a Carrie and do a fist jumping out of the dirt at you moment, which is Jason jumping out of the water.
They reference that type of like jump scare ending as a seat jumper. Is what they call it.
They
Yeah.
did say that.
So that's what they were trying
And
to do.
that's pretty easy to tell. And Carrie, as far as I know, was the first major film to do that. And it's been mimicked many times. So they were like building off of other things there. But
Do you
I
guys
love
know where
that.
they really like? Was this specifically to set up
No.
a kind of franchise?
No, not at all.
Well, okay, then I think it's a worse choice
Okay, why?
Oh yeah, explain.
because it's not until the very end that we even learn about this Jason situation. So he's an inconsequential even name. You know, I mean, he gives a motivation for our ultimate killer, who again we don't see, so we're not invested in any kind of real way. And so for it to happen, it's effective in that the kid's face is fucked.
Yeah,
But I mean,
Wow.
in an iconic kind of way.
yeah.
You know, it's something that is memorable. Not only is he looks like a swamp creature,
You need to watch Goonies, mister.
but it's like her just be like, he's still out there, Jason. It's like, I didn't even know the name Jason until 10 minutes ago.
Right. Yeah.
So
I agree
through
with
this whole movie, like, why the fuck should I care that Jason's still out there? Especially if you're sold that it's a dream. Because it's not like Jason was killing anybody. So for her to be like, he's still out there. It's like, in the fucking lake?
I
Who
agree with
gives
you.
a shit?
I literally, so Rob, you could cover this actually because you used to watch the same thing I did.
Yeah. So I completely agree with you that it's not a particularly great choice
For a single movie.
for a single movie for sure. And basically everybody involved seemed to agree that like to bring back like a full-grown murderous Jason for a sequel would not make sense. Like nobody really was on board for that because it just didn't make sense. It didn't
Cunningham
jive.
was not anyway, certainly.
Yeah, he refused to direct the sequel because it was a stupid idea.
And the idea of it's like, well, he's in the lake, so is he supernatural all of a sudden? And is he still 9 years old? What's happening? Well, that was his sort of
they're like,
take
what is
on
it? What is he just like eating fish out of the pond and
is
like not
so
communicating with his mother
peculiar.
for 20 years?
But the allure of the seat jumper moment
right, yeah.
was too much for them,
And
and
then-
they did it. And the way they justified it themselves, Savini took credit for this. It seemed like a couple people took credit for this.
Yeah.
But Savini was the one that was like, I suggested that, let's put her out on the lake. You can say anything's happening if it's just a dream.
Yeah, so like
And so,
the writer
yeah.
Victor Miller takes credit for it. Tom Savini also takes credit for it. I feel like Sean Cunningham might also take some credit for it. It's like, I'm sure they were all just like talking and probably came to the idea like together, but they all individually take like full credit.
They
for it.
all think that they like came up with it.
Yeah,
or at least are willing to say so.
If this was a one-off movie, I wouldn't really hate the ending. I'd be like, it's a little bit weak, but also it leaves it open-ended.
That's kind of how I feel
was
about
she
it.
dreaming
It's not
or
it's not
not?
a smart ending, but it's a scary ending to a scary movie.
But then when you see part 2 and all of a
Dumb but
sudden
effective.
Jason is full grown and absolutely alive as fuck and was never dead, then
Yes.
why did part 1 ever happen?
Yes.
Like what? It doesn't make any
Yes.
sense. I don't know. The problem, I don't know. There's several problems with the ending here. It just is what it is. I do want to ask you guys, like before we totally land the plane, like I feel like we've all seen all the Friday the 13th movies. Justin, I don't know if you have or not.
I haven't seen.
You've seen up to 8.
I
No?
still have not seen Jason X.
Okay.
Still haven't seen
really?
that one. I know that, and I didn't finish the remake.
Okay, that's fine.
Those might be the two that I'm out on.
I wanted to just ask, what is your favorite Friday the 13th movie? You don't. I'll let Randy kick it off. So
Okay.
you can.
I
sit.
I think I know.
Goddamn. I'm not sure that I know. It's been a while since I've seen several of them, so it's tough for me. I'm going off of kind of old knowledge of a lot of it when I was like maybe newly 20 or something, and I'm an old piece of shit now. So I don't know. It might. Part of me wants to say Freddy vs. Jason.
Dude,
you can.
that shit's
Honestly,
fun.
because it is the comic book version of Jason that
shit's
is
so
essentially the core of so many of its sequels, and it fulfills the promise that so many of those sequels do not, of just violence, nonsense, stupidity, and it also does build on the lore slightly, and I gotta give it credit for that, and it's not completely incomprehensible lore. It could have been a lot fucking stupider than that, and it certainly had been. Like, I do not care for the lore of Jason Goes to Hell, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Do not care for that. I do not care for, not Jason with a hockey mask in Jason, what is it? A New Beginning. I do not, I think, it's either that or I think probably, thinking about it, I think my go-to answer is probably the truest one, and that's part 6. Jason Lives, because that kind of kicks off that whole aesthetic of him being not just it just distills everything down to its most base components and makes it a fucking bouillon cube of slasher horror. And I kind of love how silly it becomes at that point.
Part 6 is where they fully embrace the supernatural aspects of Jason, which is not slasher for me. I disagree in that, but that's where they fully jump the shark, is in part 6, and embrace it, and I love it for that.
Yeah, it becomes sillier at that point is kind of the thing. It stops taking any level of seriousness in its premise, and that's when I say that, like earlier, that this is a franchise that doesn't look backward. That is when that is truly crystallized, is when they like, you know what? He's a ghost boy who can do anything. And he will die dozens and dozens of times, but never truly die. Because at that point, fucking Freddy is already doing that. And they're like, you know what? These movies make money. We want to keep making these fucking movies. I'm tired of coming up with excuses. Let's just say that the boy is fucking a ghost boy and call it a day. He's a fucking zombie man. He's a deadite who will kill and beat the shit out of you and put you into the fucking river and just beat your ass in a fucking sleeping bag until you're dead. And that's all he has to be. That's all people want, and we've distilled it down. We have pulled the extract out of this fucking thing.
Out of its ass. Also, we got Alice Cooper on the ones and twos. He wrote,
Yeah,
he wrote
on
a
the
fucking
ones and
theme
twos.
song.
that theme
Holy
song
shit.
is fucking hilarious.
Came in for the theme song on part 6.
He's back.
the man
fucking love that.
behind the mask.
Part 6 for Randy Juice. What is your favorite Friday the 13th
I was
movie?
thinking like the even numbers are on point for me.
Uh-huh.
2, 4, 6
Uh-huh.
are bangers.
Uh-huh.
Bangers.
I like 3.
I mean, I'm not saying anything against even like 1 and 3, but to think about 2, 4, 6, I think like 2, maybe I was trying, like going to the previous ones. 4 introduces old Bobby Jarvis over here. I was gonna say maybe 6 too, but those 3 stand out. 2, 4, 6 kind of shine of the ones I'm familiar with. I always liked 1 for some reason. This
1.
viewing had the most negative kind of feelings to me.
How long has it been since you've seen it?
I
we talked
think
about
I
this.
might. It was either last summer or the summer before. So
Okay, so
within
it's
a
not so
2-year
long
window,
ago.
not
Okay,
so
never mind.
long ago. But I was watching it by myself,
Right.
specifically for the summer at the beginning of the summer again. So I don't know.
Maybe you're just thinking more critically this time. Because of
I
the
think
podcast.
because the podcast, I was thinking more critically. I don't. 2, 4, and 6 are banger. I think I was gonna say 6 too. That one is fun as fuck. The
It's just
kills
fun.
are just outrageous, dude. 4
is that the enchiladas one or is that?
That's the enchiladas one.
Yeah, good.
For the the impotent hunter though,
The
my
impotent. A bit.
those are
oh,
and
man.
fucking killer.
I hope I'm
ass
buried with that
Jarvis, dude.
Yeah.
That there's some good shit in that one too. So
Dude, the Jarvis
it's-
one, yeah, the new the oh man.
It's crazy to me that at part 4, now I know, like, I like Halloween part 4 too, but by the time part 4 comes around in most franchises, it's already dog shit. And I
Yeah.
love that this franchise kind of
It gets
transcends.
It just does not give a shit at a certain point.
Yeah.
And I think that point is part 6.
and it
truly.
just throws like crazy shit at the wall, and you're like, okay.
because the real promise that audiences
Not
want
the worm. Not
is,
the worm.
Yeah, the worm. Yeah.
Fuck the worm.
Well, the
What's
worm
that?
kind of undoes a
Is
lot
that
of
7?
goes to hell.
That's-
Part 9.
shit. 9,
Part
yeah.
9, Jesus.
That was such a failure that they then did in space.
I will say one bit
That's-
of interesting trivia: the only Friday the 13th movie that does not have nudity in it is Part 6.
Is it?
Yeah, it's
So
the
it doesn't
only,
get
That
your
seems
half
wild
star.
to me.
It's the only one. Yeah, and it's fucking baller. You don't need it. You really don't need it. I don't know. I feel like when somebody asks me what Friday the 13th movie, if they're gonna watch one, they're gonna watch one and only one.
Yeah.
Like mandatory viewing for me is 4. I always say you gotta
Yeah.
watch 4.
Okay, yeah, that's the most lore heavy,
Yeah.
and also
It-
salient and prescient for Jason as a character.
It fully embodies Friday the 13th, except for the fact the only thing it's missing is that he's not killing campers or camp counselors. He's
Yeah.
killing people on vacation.
That's
That's the
fair.
only
That's
thing that
fair.
it's missing. But it's like it's got full on Jason with a hockey mask without the cheese of part 3 because there's no gimmick with the 3D.
kind of love the cheese of part.
Yeah, I don't know. I gotta go with 4.
Dude,
I
the
think.
kills in 6 though, man.
That's the
The-
thing.
the kills in
the
6
thing
are
is,
fantastic,
that is
yeah.
truly the thing. I think that what we're circling around, or at least for me, is just that the kills are this franchise. Like the insanity of the kills, and it ramps up because it's just the natural progression. You with sequels, you want to build on what's come before. So the first one is by its very nature going to lack in that department of its most definitive aspect, which is its gory, insane slasher kills.
Yeah.
And the rest of the franchise never fails to do at least that. Even Jason X, even Jason Goes to Hell, they are extremely gory. There are at least attempts at inventive kills. That is the promise that they're giving to the audience, and that is what's so stable about it. When we talk about it being Waffle House of fucking horror, that's what I mean. It can be smothered, it can be with peppers, but it's still the fucking base level that you want.
Every time you hit the table,
and that is
we
the
all
real.
hear it. We all hear it so loud.
That's fine, Randy. You got one episode.
I have a lot of points to make.
here in Jacksonville. That's a classic. Banging
It
on
is.
the table.
It is a
That is
classic.
classic.
We all bang on tables in Duval.
Yes, we do.
We
to completion.
We got to land this plane here.
Land
Let's
it,
go
Mom.
ahead and rate Friday the 13th out of 5 stars. Juice, please kick us off. How do you feel?
This one's tough. Kind of. Because I can't help but think of this franchise. And this franchise is so wild and so all over the place and follows its own kind of rules and transcends, like kind of breaks all kind of molds and just does its own thing and is so respectable in so many ways. I've seen this film. As I said, for some reason, this one felt a little like bittersweet. The end of kind of a summer season. finally kind of getting to this classic, but also knowing that we've covered some of the other kind of maybe better ones in this franchise before on this cast. It's a weird kind of position. I found myself being more critical of this one and maybe just having those other part 6s and part 2s and part 4s in my mind while we were watching this. I was more critical, but I can't knock like the space it kind of occupies in my heart in a way. I know that's, but I mean,
How it's touching, really.
it's just, this franchise is pretty solid. And to kick it off this way is very intriguing. They took a lot of swings and it's gone through a lot of interesting history. So the positives, the music, the setting, the kind of wild swings that they take with like the ending and the authentic feeling of kind of the kids, what they're doing, what they're saying. It's not important, but they're teenagers. They're
What they do, what they say.
Yeah, what
Mother.
Mother. Oh my God.
Let him finish.
Interrupting.
Shameful.
I don't know. This is a classic, and it kicked off a huge horror franchise. I don't think it's a perfect 5 though, but it's mainly because I can't get this franchise out of my head, and I think now reflecting, there's other ones that I like better, and so I'm like, well, I can't give that the 5-star then, but I respect it too much to give it too low, so I'm like at a war with myself. I'm very deep.
War with me.
I'll give this one.
We're all waiting
I
on
know.
pins and needles.
My bated breath.
I'll give
has
this
something
one
to say.
a 4 out of 5.
All right. Does that include the half-star for the Yabos or not?
Oh shit! Nope. Let me give the half-star for the Yabos. 4.5.
4.5.
The principle
out of 5.
holds true.
I'm a man of my code.
You're lucky that it was just the imprint of Kevin Bacon's dick.
I forgot about the Yabos.
or else
to
you
be
would have to
honest.
subtract it right back.
I forgot about the Yabo.
Yabo.
Yeah, singular
Call it
Yabo.
4.25.
Quarter
if you
star.
need to.
Nope.
Quarter
Nope. I'm
star.
a man of.
All right.
I'm a man of principle.
All right.
You're a man of
principled man.
faith. I have
It
faith
depends
in
on
the
your
Yabo.
interpretation. I mean, the lawyers could parse that if you really
I guess
wanted
it would
them
be
to.
nice.
If I could touch a Yabo.
So okay, with so
You've been on point with your parodies tonight.
Bob.
The Jason's mom got me too. Jason's mom is gonna kill your friends.
So with the half-star for the Yabo, Bob, out of 5. Oh no, with the half-star for the Yabo, I give it 4.5. Bob, out of 5, what are you giving the OG Friday the 13th?
This movie is like classic American filmmaking. Like when you think of a horror movie, a lot of people typically think slashers, and when they think slashers, they often typically think of like summer camp slashers, and that is because of this fucking movie. So it's like extremely iconic, especially when you're talking about like American filmmaking. It's like it carries a lot of fucking weight. And I think a lot of that has to do with the success of its sequels as well. I don't think all of that just is about like this original movie. All that weight is not carried on this original movie's shoulders by any means, because we don't really get Jason. We just don't. I do think this is extraordinarily important, though, in like the history of like American filmmaking. It does a lot with a little. There's not a whole lot going on in the script until we see the very end, which definitely had to be inspired by Psycho. It had to be. They just flipped it on its head a little bit. There's some solid practical effects in this. Big shouts outs to Tom Savini. He got hired on this movie because he did Dawn of the Dead just before, and they were like, yeah, that man knows what he's fucking doing, so they gave him the job.
Even though he made the zombies blue.
He made the zombies. It's like a gray blue. Yeah. But anyway, there's some good blood and guts in there. I love Crazy Ralph. Like, he is the most iconic character in this movie for me. Like, even more than like Pamela Voorhees, even more than like Alice. For like that's the motherfucker that I remember for some reason. And he comes back in the sequel, and he's in it just about as much as Alice is. You know, like he's got the same hang time as anybody else does in this fucking franchise, other than Jason, of course.
I love that phrasing.
Like, I don't know. I love that character in like the beginnings of that sort of harbinger trope. I love seeing that here in Crazy Ralph. Also, like, we didn't mention that Crazy Ralph was married. Like, to who? Like, he has a life.
I gotta think she's like in a fucking iron lung with polio or some shit.
It's a small town.
What's happening in
I guess
Crazy
I'm stuck
Ralph's
with Ralph for the rest of my fucking
Hope, New
life.
Jersey.
Yeah. I love the vibe. I love the setting. I love the score. The fucking Friday the 13th has such an incredible score that actually does improve in the sequels as well. Like, as the kills often do, like, the sequel grows with it and evolves and it gets sick nasty. I really am a big fan of that. Also, like the kick thing. Like, everybody knows what that is. Everybody.
Well,
It just about everybody. It's similar to Jaws in that it's so simple of a theme, like you can't forget it. You know exactly what it is when you hear it. There are some questionable actions taken by Alice in this film. The jump scare at the end is also questionable, and like the insane retcon in the sequels just sort of makes it even more glaring of an error. So I mean, this is not a home run, but I respect the hell out of it. It's definitely like it's standing on the shoulders of giants and just like is able to do even more than they were able to do. I think specifically with the sequels, not necessarily with this movie exactly. But
yeah, that's what's difficult.
So like I
don't know about that.
No, well, you're next up. You're next up.
I know.
I can't give this a 5. I think I'm going to give this a solid 4. A 4 out of 5.
Okay, so if you were a man of principle like me, it would be a 4.5.
Man of your principle.
Yeah.
Why don't you keep your principles to your goddamn self?
I'm going to give Friday the 13th 4 out of 5. Randy, how do you feel?
So, I am trying to be as objective as possible with this. This is a movie that...
Well, I love how we all treat this like a child. Like,
What?
well, just like, I'm trying to be as objective as possible.
No, I am.
Yeah.
Like, that. What I'm going to get to is that I kind of feel like you guys are letting this movie's reputation affect your scoring, and I am going to try not to do that. You're trying to, like, it's almost like the franchise is being scored more than the
well,
film.
it's hard not to
I
give
know,
this one credit
and I'm not
for
gonna
it,
and I'm
yeah.
not gonna neglect the franchise either. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, because it it has a lot to do with that, but. Taking this movie as its own, I think that it's a fucking good movie. It's one of my favorite Friday the 13th movies. And it might even be like top 3. It's very, very possible that it's top 3. So I think that for me, this movie, I think it does. It's not Jason in the Mask. It doesn't have those things. It doesn't have those tropes established that are so iconic. It doesn't have every established thing that we think of when we think of Friday the 13th. But it does a few things. The Harbinger being a main one. That is a standard. That is a trope that is so widely used as to be fucking laughable. Like, it is insane how many fucking Harbingers are in not just slasher movies, but all kinds of fucking horror movies.
You're gonna camp blood, ain't you?
And I want to make sure that we give credit to things like that, things like the idea of red shirts. Like, this movie does, like you said, stand on the shoulders of giants, but it is definitely a giant in its own right, and like so many goddamn movies stand on the shoulders of this one.
True.
So I think that, like, it's a natural progression. It is a rung in a ladder that leads to people's current understanding of, not even necessarily current, but like leads to people's generalized, not necessarily informed in opinion or understanding of what a horror movie is in America. And I think that's super, super fucking important. That's unimpeachably true, I think, that the movie has its place in history. It's such a big place in history. I think that it's a flawed movie, though. I don't think that it's a perfect movie. I think that I love some of the stuff about it. I could gush about a lot of it. But things like, if I'm taking it purely at face value, the character of Alice, who is our central pivotal character, who's our final girl, makes so many dumb mistakes that eventually became tropes themselves for a lot of movies that then became subverted and resubverted and unsubverted and all those things. But it establishes so much of that. The dropping of a pivotal weapon that she could use, using like just scrambling and throwing fucking yarn at the killer as a method of defense instead of the butt of the fucking rifle you just dropped, like shit like that, or like fucking closing curtains instead of barricading fucking windows. Like there's a lot of dumb shit that she does as a character.
That piano's heavy.
That piano is perfectly movable by any adult person. Anyway. Especially one with the fucking motivation of not dying. So these are, to me, taking it purely as its own movie, I think that it's tough to focus on a central character. There's not a great point of view character. Like, as much as I think that a lot of these characters are so believable, and so like their conversations when they're having a normal time are so normal that when they make dumb decisions, it seems fucking mega dumb. And it's tough to ignore that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt because I know that that's a trope, but that wasn't necessarily a trope at this time. In Halloween, that wasn't the standard. This movie established that standard. This franchise established that standard because of that. So I'm not going to sit as an audience member in 1980 watching this film and think, well, yeah, of course she's gonna like run with her arms flailing like that. That's what all the protagonists of these movies do, because there were no all these fucking movies.
Yeah.
So I think that those sort of things really matter. There's not somebody that I can centrally focus on, and even the killer, as much as I love the reveal of Pamela, not having, enough red herrings, not having the giallo level of like whodunit. There's a little bit of whodunit feeling, but they do not revel in it. They mostly focus on teenagers being half dressed and fucking. And that is a trope itself, but it wasn't at this time. Anyway, there's a lot of things about this that we look at as normal now that were not at the time, that, for better or for worse, impacted the franchise and thus the understanding of horror movies. And I think that it is both for good and bad. I think that this movie, purely standing on its own merits, not for the franchise, is a 3.5 for me, because I really do like it and I like a lot about it, but the characters are not written well. They're acted well, not written well. The score is good. The setting is cool. The plot is dumb.
With Randy's 3.5, that's going to give us a 4 aggregate. Let's jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Friday the 13th.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so this is the Rotten Tomatoes segment where I'm going to give these two gentlemen the chance to guess, within the best of their abilities, the aggregate scores of both critics and users of Friday the 13th, 1980 on RottenTomatoes.com. Let's start with our critic score. There are 55 reviews counted, which is much lower than I anticipated. And we're going to start with Juice today. On the critic side, 55 reviews. What do you think the aggregate is for this film?
That is surprisingly low.
Yeah, I mean, it's an older movie, and that's often the case, but
Yeah.
still.
This is such a classic. This one's hard to gauge.
Mm-hmm.
Man. I think I just got to rely on the 69 dudes to get me through.
We all do sometimes.
So I really don't know where this is going to fall, because it does, like you said, with your own, scoring, this movie is open to legitimate critiques and flaws. It's got them, but it's also so iconic, you
want to overlook them.
and timeless. Yeah. So it's,
that doesn't mean you can.
so I'm 69 dudes.
69 dudes. All right. I don't have a bump to play, but it's in your heart.
60.
Bob, how about you? Where are you falling on this
69 dudes.
It's got a death curse!
Bob's got 3 bumps.
And they will be used.
I feel like it's going to be higher than that. I'm gonna take an 80%.
80%. All right. Well, that was a mistake.
Fuck.
Juice is pretty damn close. It's a 64%.
Damn.
64% consensus.
Oh, can I get a hell yeet?
Go on, get! Leave people alone!
Well done. That was a good bump.
I'm sorry, that's
Good
not
bump.
on the behind the scenes.
Hell yeet.
That's
Thank
a good.
you.
That's a good bump. So yeah, the critics' consensus is as follows. Or should I just do the? Yeah, let's do the
Let's do
audience
the
score
audience.
first.
Okay.
So audience score. Let's start with you, Bob. There are 100,000 plus reviews
Holy
in the audience score segment.
Shit.
You tell me
That's
what
a
that
shitload.
translates to for you.
75.
70. Oh wow! Right off the bat.
Let's do it.
Soju.
Shit. Fuck me.
All right.
I won't do it.
75. That's a sweet, sweet spot to be.
So fucking sweet.
I'm going to take the high end and
So
hope
fucking
that the audience cares about this movie more. 64. That's such a shame. I'll take a scotch higher and go for a hell yeet sweep with an 80%.
So 75 and 80. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
So, mistake on your part, Soju. It's a 60% flat.
Oh, no.
60.
Shut up, Ralph!
Yeah, I agree.
No.
Shut up, Ralph.
Oh, wow. That's so much lower on both ends than I would have thought.
That is crazy.
I know,
That's
I thought the same
surprising.
thing.
It
That is
is.
surprising. So here's what the critics' consensus reads on RottenTomatoes.com. Rather quaint by today's standard, Friday the 13th still has its share of bloody surprises and a 70s holdover aesthetic to slightly compel.
What?
I don't know if I
Deserves
buy
better than that.
I think it deserves better than that as well.
Yeah. I would not call this movie quaint.
No.
I would, but I would not like the phrasing of this is not
It's
very
better
generous.
than that. It's better than that.
Yeah, I mean,
It's got a death curse!
come on.
It's quaint by today's standards. I think that's fair to say. Today's standards are fucking insane.
That's true.
We've seen Hostel.
Okay.
What the fuck?
Yeah, but that movie
Today's standards.
Yeah, but it's still-
Hostel.
No, like torture porn was a legitimate standard for many years, and Hostel kicked that shit right into the teeth.
I mean, I get it.
Not today's
I get
standards.
it, but
That was
it-
like 2008.
okay, well,
I just don't want it to be true.
I don't
Yeah,
want it to be
that's
true either. I
unfortunate.
think it's unfortunate, but I think that part is not the part I take issue with. I think to me the part is that it's like 70s holder aesthetic to slightly compel. It's like it's compelling enough. It's a kind of a whodunit. It's fun. And
It's
it has
compelling
cool
because everybody knows.
and the characters
about
are
it.
reasonably not interesting, but reasonably relatable to me. Like, they're not greatly written, but they are able to act in a way that is becoming of a regular person.
I think
Except for Ralph, who is hilariously out of place, and that's what makes him great.
You'll never come back again!
I think the most unfortunate thing is I have to give a hell skeet.
Yeah, you do.
See how much fervor I gave that, Bob?
You gave it a lot of fervor.
That's the
No.
sign of a true showman.
That's the sign of
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah.
with their own
A showman.
code.
Yeah. Okay.
man
Randy,
with
read
the
us a dog
code.
shit review. You got a dog shit
Oh,
review on there?
well, I just closed it.
Tight.
God damn it, Ralph, get out of here!
Or don't. You don't have to.
I gotta have to pull it back up if I do.
Okay. Well, we'll just
Scott Bonerman from
Scott Bonerman
says
He
fart
says-
on this podcast. I mean movie.
Oh, that's Bob's trauma coming
It
up
says-
from a legitimate negative review of this podcast.
Scott Bonerman says fart on the balls of this podcast.
Scott
Here's a negative.
Boner,
Okay,
man.
here's random negative. Are you ready to go?
Yeah.
It may be one of the most famous, but it's certainly not an original on which others are based. That is purely fucking wrong.
It's just
That's
wrong.
so
That is
wrong.
the wrongest fucking negative review I have ever heard.
Scott Bonerman
That is
doesn't know what the
demonstrably
fuck he's talking
bullshit. Scott Bonerman can suck his own bonerman.
Soju Stain says fart on the balls of this critic.
Yeah, that is somebody who does not do their research. Fucking Empire Magazine, really? Get the fuck out of here.
about. Scott Bonerman.
Don't fart on my balls, no.
All right, it's totally time for trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
Oh, you sped that shit up.
It's only that for trivia.
That's the double time version.
Okay.
Somebody doesn't have time to waste.
Bob, you are taking over trivia this week. What you got?
Read them.
I got some shit.
Did you turn to a spicy game?
I'll see if I can make some questions as we go.
Is it?
The first one's definitely not question worthy. So this movie was filmed at a camp called Nobi Bosco in New Jersey. The camp is still in operation. They have a wall that just commemorates Friday the 13th memorabilia bullshit. The film made $39 million on a budget of $550,000.
Wow, that's great.
Harry Crosby.
Rob, you could ask us how much this movie made.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just give me a second. Harry Crosby. We mentioned this briefly. He actually is the son of Bing Crosby. I was off on that.
You went back and forth on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
He is the son. My bad. So there was a very famous rock star that lived next door to the filming location. I don't know. Take a stab. Who do you guys think lived next door to the location?
In New Jersey?
In New Jersey, yeah.
Is it
Springsteen would not make sense, although Jersey.
Is it a musician?
Yeah. Yeah,
okay.
It's a well-known like rock
You know what?
star.
I'm just going to go because he is
said
Jersey.
rock
I'm just
star,
going to go
not
Springsteen.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right. It's too rural for him, but I'm gonna go with it.
1979 when they filmed this.
Bob Dylan.
Springsteen, Bob Dylan, getting in the ballpark actually. So it was Lou Reed.
Okay.
Um,
Gun. I got a gun.
Yeah,
I know how to use it.
I have a
I
gun.
know how to use it. He owned a farm that was nearby, and apparently he would just like hang out and like play fucking guitar when they were filming this fucking.
Well, that's goddamn
movie.
amazing.
How incredible is that? Like he
It's
would
quite
you just hang around with these fucking teenagers.
I think
and like
he wants to see what it can do.
You're God.
I think he wants to see Marcy's nipples.
Yeah. Well. Yeah.
He says that he'll blow your brains out.
Yeah.
With a gun.
We mentioned this briefly. Anyway, the snake that they chop up was a real snake. Unfortunately,
yeah.
they
Bummer.
actually
R.I.P. Snake.
killed that snake. Sean
be dead
Cunningham
anyways.
was so sure that just the title Friday the 13th would sell this movie that he took out a full-page ad in Variety over the 4th of July weekend 1979 to pick up financing, and it worked. The financiers behind The Last House on the Left contacted him and offered to cover the entire budget of the film.
Damn.
Based on the fucking title?
Well,
Yeah,
here's what I
just the
want to
ad,
know.
yeah.
Here's what I'm curious about.
Okay.
So Friday the 13th now is known as kind of a negative, taboo, superstitious kind of thing. Was that the case before? I assume this was the case before this movie was
It
picked
was
up.
recognizable. And
That's why it was recognizable.
Okay.
There's like
That's interesting.
debatable roots as to why that's recognizably like an inauspicious
Yeah.
day.
Uh-huh.
Some of it goes back to like biblical stuff with like Good Friday.
Oh, yeah, Friday the 13th is when Noah dropped the tablets. I heard that.
Noah, yeah, 100%. Anyway, I don't know that there's like a definitive origin story, but like Friday the 13th was known before this movie came out.
That's curious.
Victor Miller's working title for the script was Long Night at Camp Blood.
That makes a lot of sense.
The two Jeeps in the film were indeed the exact same Jeep. It was model number 1972 CJ5.
I was wondering the model
Riveting
number.
Hey,
Why wasn't that a question for us to answer? Come on. Give me my car guy knowledge.
Marcy does some sort of impression when she's in the bathhouse, which was of Katharine Hepburn. The lines that she's delivering is it's from
who?
Katharine
Catherine Hepburn.
Katharine Hepburn. The shit she's saying is from The
Katharine.
Rainmaker, 1956.
Huh.
Sean Cunningham has gone on the record as saying that he doesn't believe the whole like sinners must be punished type thing that a lot of slasher films seem to support. Instead, he just sees it as like bad things happening to good people for no reason. Cunningham also didn't like Gene Siskel's complaint that the film was misogynistic and that Cunningham is a little bit tougher on the girls in this movie than he is on the guys.
I mean, the only
totally agree with
survivor
that.
is a woman.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even just that. Like, the women in this movie are pretty self-possessed.
True. Yeah.
Like, none of them are pawns.
Yeah, if anything, males and females are killed and treated equally.
Shit, the killer is a woman.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like fucking Siskel just shits on horror movies, and he's like heavy on the record of just shitting on horror movies, and he treated this movie very
especially
much the
early
same
on.
way. Crazy Ralph was originally called Ralphie Ratboy in an earlier script.
He's got a death curse.
Sean Cunningham cut his teeth in the industry directing softcore porn, and then eventually transitioned into horror with fellow porn director Wes Craven. Sean Cunningham, the director of this movie.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And he produced the 1971 horror classic Last House on the Left. So Craven and Cunningham had a working relationship before this movie and after this movie. So that's kind of interesting.
That's kind of dope.
Although everyone compares this to Halloween, even screenwriter Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham have admittedly said they're ripping off Halloween when developing this. This movie bears a resemblance to another movie from 1945. It's called Agatha Christie's And Then There Were None is the title of the film.
Aggie wrote this?
Yeah, I've never seen this. It's a detective mystery, and apparently it's considered one of the original slasher movies.
I would like to see that a lot now.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. There's like a remote house and a prophecy at the beginning with like a harbinger.
Shit.
And then people get picked off one by one. So it's kind of interesting to hear about that.
Soju...
Kevin, are you pouring the Malort?
He's pouring the fucking Malort.
I cannot.
You have drunk to the point of recklessness.
I cannot believe you're doing that. I literally cannot.
You better
believe.
stop that shit.
Two are already full. I
Get
can't
you a
stop
funnel,
now.
dude, because this shit's going back in the damn bottle.
If we're gonna drink that, I have to have a chaser. It
finish
is
the trivia. We got a lot to
required.
cover.
Yeah. Kevin Bacon shaved his armpits for the bedroom scene.
And a boy bacon, my man.
I don't want hair on my bacon. I want that shit like fucking just flesh on flesh. Just slap it. Just fucking slap happy. That's what I want.
On flesh is distressing. Of
Film
a
critic
phrase.
Gene Siskel was notoriously prudish and dismissive of horror movies. He rarely, if ever, gave horror movies good reviews, including Jaws, Alien, and Academy Award winner Silence of the Lambs. He gave them all shit reviews. He gave this movie 0 stars, revealing the ending, and even published Betsy Palmer's incorrect address, imploring his readers write letters in protest of what they had just seen, quote, a cleaver in the forehead movie. Motherfucker, 0 stars on this movie, publishing actresses' actual addresses.
That's fucked.
That guy can
Fuck
eat
that guy.
every part of my asshole.
Let's beat
the
his ass.
fattest, wettest part he can eat.
Get him.
That's fucked up. He also went on to say Sean Cunningham is one of the most despicable creatures that has ever infested the film industry. That's some fucking heavy shit.
Who is this?
Siskel.
What's his address?
I don't know. I just don't know. The scene where Bill plays guitar, Harry Crosby is actually playing his own guitar off screen.
Oh, damn.
Steve Miner is the only person that has crossed over from Friday the 13th to the Halloween franchise. So Steve Miner directed Friday the 13th
That's right.
Part 2 and also directed Halloween H2O. So that's pretty fucking cool. Please get me a beer or a water or something.
Give me something that's not alcoholic, please.
Jesus Christ.
Hopefully something that dulls the senses.
So this bit of trivia is specifically talking about the ongoing lawsuit. In January 2021, 41 years after the film was released, Friday the 13th producer Sean Cunningham launched a new lawsuit over net profits from the horror franchise. According to a complaint filed on Thursday in Los Angeles Superior Court, the studio distributing the films have systematically misaccounted contingent compensation. Cunningham is already engaged in a battle with writer Victor Miller over rights, so this is a second lawsuit here.
Jesus Christ.
Now pending a ruling at the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. That case involves important copyright and labor issues and has delayed any reboot, new sequels, and any other derivative works. As fans patiently wait the conclusion there, Cunningham is throwing himself into another big battle, this one against Warner Bros. And Paramount Pictures with quote, Hollywood accounting in the first lines and talk about Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings, quote, apparently lost money. So Hollywood accounting is like an ongoing thing that I've been hearing a lot about, where like it's big studios obviously throw out like these movies that are cash cows, that are summer blockbusters, that literally there's no way they have lost money, but through fancy accounting they will claim they have lost money.
I mean, there's like, I know that the Hobbit movies have a lot of crazy shit going on behind them, and that may very well factor into some of that. And that's just from off the top of my head. That's crazy.
Yeah. So hopefully they get that
but
shit
don't worry.
wrapped up.
Feldman says it's all wrapped up.
Yeah, Feldman doesn't know what he's fucking talking about.
I don't think Feldman
No
knows
shade
what
on
the fuck he's-
Feldman, really, because I love that
I like
dude,
Feldman, but
yeah.
Jesus
I'm gonna throw
Christ.
some shade on Feldman.
Says the man that just poured Malort
This man just poured
shots.
Malort for people he supposedly cares about.
Says the man who bought the bottle.
Yes,
I got-
well,
And wants to drink it at his
I never
wedding.
purported to care for anyone.
There's enough. There's enough for the wedding, Randy.
I got two more real quick hitters. The killer of this movie is just named Miss Voorhees. Her first name is not revealed as Pamela until the shot of her grave is shown in part 4, the final chapter.
I didn't
wow,
realize that. That's
And
interesting.
Finally, there are 10 deaths in this movie if you don't count the snake and you don't count Jason because he's obviously not dead. You see Barry, Claudette, Annie, Ned, Jack, Marcy, Brenda, Steve, Bill, and Pamela Voorhees all die in this movie.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
10 deaths. That is all
That's
the
more than it
trivia
seems.
I got. Are we gonna fucking take the shot now, or like, what are we fucking gonna do? I'm not really stoked about it.
I'm not super into it.
Oh my God.
It's, all right.
We're all together. We gotta take
It's
a shot
Jepson's
of Malort.
Malort.
Says the man that bought the bottle.
Yeah, not for tonight.
When you smell it,
I got everyone a chaser. The boys are back.
it
The
smells.
boys.
It will clean porcelain.
Okay.
Like if I poured it in a toilet.
So let's all just take.
There's
a
only one
shot
toilet in this
together.
house. I'm just going to point that
We
out.
all have a chaser.
all right.
Okay.
All right.
This
God
is a
help us.
straight chilling. This is for G baby.
This is G Baby's fault.
All right.
All right. Real quick.
Oh, revel in how terrible it tastes. I'm not taking the chaser. I poured the shot. It's terrible. And
It's still so bad. Oh my god.
It tastes like rejection from your mom.
Oh my god.
dude, it is so disgusting.
It's worse than I remember it. It's worse.
It really does taste like a cleaner.
Pore in my
Worse.
body just puckered like a fucking lemon mouth.
The chaser's coming.
God
The
damn.
chaser is not helping.
It did nothing. I only taste Malort. I only taste Malort.
Do better, Coca-Cola.
Jesus
Tic
Christ.
Tac, save me.
Also, Corey needed a little taste of the Malort there.
Corey, how's that hitting you? You like that? Is that? It's heinous.
It's like
It's
probably the
heinous.
worst thing you put in your mouth.
I can't.
Not so far.
You're kind enough to be here taking pictures of us, and then we feed you dog shit liquor. Like,
He was excited to try.
What chemical product would you compare it to? No, I haven't.
Dude, it's still in my mouth.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
No, you know what? You get that last.
oh yeah, tic tac Diddy.
Oh, my Lord. Thank you.
Oh my god.
Dude, I got a shit ton.
There's no controlling this fucking
Ray's
thing.
taking them all back.
You don't get that many, bish.
All right, we got you know what time it is? It's time to go hunting. We're talking Cooter of the week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Dude, this week's Cooter of the Week is sponsored by
Jepson's Malort. Cooter fuel.
Oh, my God.
Tastes like a family funeral.
Don't drink that shit. We have made this shit famous, unfortunately.
We have not made this
We
shit
have
famous.
made this
Single-handedly.
Malort.
You know what's genuinely baffling is that like there's an eighth of this bottle, maybe a sixth of this bottle. Like where did it go?
3 shots went into my horrible tainted
Brad
mouth.
drank some.
Brad is fucked
We've
up.
made this.
Let's not make a point
Yeah.
of like spending this time going over people drinking.
All
All
alcohol.
right, yeah. What's Cooter? Why are we hunting him?
Cooter is a straight chillin' exclusive and a character type. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter. We want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. I remembered all that super drunk, so that's awesome. Boys, who wants to
Congrats.
nominate the Cooter this week?
Bob, you got one in mind? Because let me think here. I there's a little bit to be said about I forget his name, Steve Christie,
Steve Christie, the owner of the camp.
and that's only on the basis that these are teenagers, and he is clearly like a 35, 40-year-old porn star.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I also don't think that like there are no teenage actors in this film, so it's
But
tough to kind of
in
buy
context
that
of the
for
movie,
me.
though, there's a substantial age difference there.
There is an
between
age difference,
him
but I don't
and
know that it's
Alice.
more than like 15 years, and I think that maybe she's like in her 20s. It's possible that he's
I
an
don't
early
think she's
30s.
that. I think in context of this movie, she's like 16 to 18, if I had to guess, something like that.
I don't think she's 16.
I don't know.
I don't think she's under 18 because these are people. These aren't like all of the counselors. These are the administration staff. There's like 7 of them there to fix up the camp.
Yeah, no, I
a
literally think
cook.
they're all counselors plus the owner of the camp. I think
Yeah.
that is legit who they are.
I don't know, man. In my experience, like there are 16-year-old campers, and first of all, they don't look like that. Second of all, they don't show up that early to hammer nails and shit and do all that kind of thing. Like, I mean,
I think there's a
that's not
huge
true,
age
actually, but
gap.
I think there's a massive
There's an age gap,
and
but I
that's
don't think
the
it's
point.
necessarily that massive.
Also,
I don't know if
I
it's
also think that maybe we're
illegal.
also thinking that he's older than he could. It's possible.
It's that stash.
He just looks like Hall and Oates. He looks like both Hall
even if
and
you just
Oates.
like look at what's happening, he's touching her and she's not about it.
Well, she wants to leave him, but also I don't know. But there's clear that there's a relationship there because she's like drawing him and shit.
He's also banging the waitress.
Yeah, 100%.
That's our own extrapolation for our
you can't
slash
debate it.
fiction.
It's
I'm
fact.
taking it to court.
It's fact.
Okay, well, you better get in line. Apparently,
Undebatable. Also, we're gonna give him a tire. We're giving it to him.
Yeah, a tire.
Dude, holy Jesus.
Can we give Kevin Bacon a
and
tire as well?
nothing else?
No, because damn.
Only jorts? Those
Well,
jorts are short as shit.
They are, but they're not as short as sleepaway camp shorts. Not by a long shot.
But were those jorts?
Yeah, some
no.
of them.
Some
were
of them
they?
were,
Yeah.
but not the one I'm
Okay.
thinking of.
Well, yeah, I know what you're thinking of.
Yeah, you do.
You're thinking of the baldies.
Haunt your
Oh
fucking
no,
dreams.
I wasn't, but that's horrible.
I don't know. So that guy's definitely got a tire, like maybe sexual deviance, but outside of that, I don't really
He
know.
seemed
if
like
he's
we don't. I
got
don't think we
anything.
like get a lot of him. That's not all business.
Yeah.
you know?
He's all
and he's just kind of like
business.
making his fucking.
I
camp
don't know.
work.
His little speech could be seen as pathetic if he's playing, like if he's this older guy who's kind of pushing on this young girl, and now at this point he's her boss, and he's going
definitely
and
true.
he's
That
going
is
through her
100% true.
sketchbook and maybe playing the little guilt card a little bit. That could be seen as pathetic.
He told her like,
Or
hang out till
manipulation.
Friday, and then if you don't want to go, I'll drive you myself. I think that's good boss work, but I don't think touching the girl's face was good boss work.
No,
And
that's,
boss work is a term
that's
that I'm
good
coining
daddy
apparently
work, if you know
because
what
I'm
I'm
an illiterate.
I know what you're
I
saying.
don't-
but-
I'm let's move on because I don't think there's enough there for a full
don't-
Cooter award.
Okay.
I don't think
do
there's a
think
Cooter.
there's
Okay.
like the only other person I can think of off the top of my head is actually there's 2. There's Ralph and then there's the cop Diggett.
Yeah, there's
Which I
such
just
a
don't think there's enough of that
minor
guy. I just
character.
think he's
Yeah.
a fucking insane character. But Ralph, maybe, because that dude's
He's
hiding
got a death
fucking
curse.
pantries.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
camp blood, ain't ya?
And here's one of the critiques of this film: nobody has a whole lot of depth, and
No, yeah,
unfortunately, to
true.
be a Cooter, you gotta have some.
You
depth.
don't necessarily have to
gotta
have
be
depth, but you
really
gotta be
deep.
you gotta be obviously a shitty person. And there's a difference between being like psychologically addled and being a fucking shitty person.
Yeah, I mean, to hit 3 of 5 points, you have to have some kind.
It's a
of
little
depth.
pathetic. His look and attire is fine, I guess. He was wearing a Han
Maybe
Solo
it's
vest.
Cooter 3 since
I don't know, man. Like, I find, like I said this during the live stream, but I find that the best way to deliver news to people is by bursting forth from a pantry and screaming, "I'm a harbinger of God." Or whatever.
Shut up, Ralph.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't think there's
Arrogance,
a strong Cooter
maybe.
candidate.
Manipulation, no. Sexual deviancy, no. Look and attire, no.
A
It's
lot
just
of
not a good
people
one.
hit on attire. I'll say that.
Pamela?
Yeah, she's got that thick ass
Sweater.
sweater. Yeah, I don't
That's a great sweater. I don't ding her for that sweater one bit. What's happening?
Oh,
Oh,
boy.
no.
She's
Oh,
dying.
God.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we've got a Cooter.
She's not
unless-
sexually deviant. She is maybe a little arrogant. I don't know. Manipulative. Yes, she lies several times.
Yeah,
In her short stint from going to believable liar to obviously insane person. Look and attire, normal. Sexual deviancy, no. Smug arrogance, not. Well, yeah. Patheticness, maybe. I don't think there's enough. I just don't think there's enough
yeah.
for
Pamela
anybody.
would be like light if we had one at all. I think.
Yeah, I just don't think there's a strong enough candidate here. Nobody feels right.
Friday the 13th just doesn't make deep characters.
Yeah.
You gotta be deep to be a Cooter.
We're going.
What
Cooter,
about
Cooter free?
Enchilada guy? He's a deep character.
No. His shits are deep, but he's not.
Well, that's part of his character.
We're going Cooter free since 1980.
80.
Let's go ahead
Emphasize that
and
E.
we're letting our hair down. We're entering the social hour. We're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
What are you doing
What
with
is
the bombs?
happening? That is clearly extended for no reason.
I just
One is sped up, one is slowed way the fuck down.
sometimes shit just happens.
I don't think it just
Thank you
It
so
doesn't
much for
just
rolling
happen
with it
to me.
and pretending like I'm not gonna fix it.
You're not going to
the
fix
best
it.
part.
It's broken. It's broken.
I thought these were choices that were being made.
No, of course not. What have you people been watching?
How have
Randy? What have you been watching?
how much time have you got? Because it's been like 3 weeks
You have
since I've been able
5
to.
minutes.
That's because you missed episodes.
Yeah,
Randy.
well, some people have lives.
How dare you?
Doubt it.
I have finished the series Dr. Death. I think it's a pretty good series. I think that most of my qualms with it were pretty well justified because it's got a good strong message of get second opinions is basically the crux of the issue there. It's a pretty well done series. I think it's not the perfect series. It's a little chintzy, but it's pretty good. I've watched the film True Stories with John Goodman, a David Byrne film with the Talking Heads, and it's fucking amazing. I've watched it before. I mentioned it before. It's still great. I watched I Think You Should Leave, the new season. I've watched a few episodes, and it's still fucking hilarious. It's a great show. I watched a show called Ted Lasso. I binged that. It's on Apple Plus or whatever the fuck. And that is a show with Jason Sudeikis about a football coach, a college football coach in America who is given a job in London as a soccer coach, and there's a lot of great fish out of water stuff, and it's also one of the few feel-good comedies that I have allowed myself in many years, and one of the few that I think is successfully feel-good and not just trite in several years that I've seen. I recommend that one heavily. I listened to something called the Devil Within podcast, which is masquerading as a true crime podcast, but really kind of feels like legitimately repeating Satanic Panic talking points and trying to convince you that people are ritual killing or that things are, I don't know, it's dumb and
It might
bad.
be possible, Randy.
Everything's possible, but this guy is absolutely conjecturing for most of the fucking thing, to the point where that is what most people respond to it with. Even people who believe that shit have argued that he brought no information. I do not like it. I watched The Boy Behind the Door, which is about 2 kids who were abducted and almost like a child sex trafficking thing. And it follows the kids. There's pretty good kid actors in that thing. Becky recognized one from This Is Us, which I have not kept up with, but she is super into. And I would generally recommend that. It's not a deep movie, but it's a pretty good like abduction thriller horror with some unexpected turns. I would go with it. It's worth a look, and it's not super gruesome. Let's see. I watched the show called Schmigadoon, where Keegan-Michael Key and an SNL actress whose name I'm forgetting are literally trapped in a musical that's kind of like Oklahoma, and they just stumble into it in the woods, and it's fucking weird. And I have only watched a few episodes, and I'm not super into it.
Yeah,
it's a weird one. I like musicals pretty good, but it's not hitting me right for some reason. I watched Best in Show again. It's still great. Fucking, it's great. I started reading House of Leaves. I'm only a little bit into it, but I am into it, and I'm hoping to get through it, but I'm a terrible reading comprehension person, and I've been drinking, so I can't even speak coherently about it. I watched The Big Short. It's still great. It's a great
Shorty.
film. The Big Shouty. And I've started Memories of Murder by Bong Joon-ho, and I have not yet finished it. It will be finished probably tonight or tomorrow, so I'll probably talk about that again. I sped read that shit for you.
Nice. Thank you. Juice, what you been watching?
I watched the new Suicide Club. Oh, no. The Club. Suicide Club. Suicide Squad.
Tight.
I watched the new Suicide
Starting with a
Squad.
bang.
Damn. James, I had to think about it again. James Gunn film. It's not his best film. It's one of the better DC films, so that's for sure. A lot of fun, little long, crazy gore, but fun overall in its premise. It was a fun watch, even with its length.
That's what she said.
One thing I've really been getting into and even like deep diving into, Scooby-Doo.
Yes.
Like, where are you?
From
or
the
what?
70s?
Yeah, okay, so OG Scooby-Doo, but also like going into its progression. So I've also watched a little
13
bit
Ghosts.
of Scooby-Doo and the 13
Fucking Vincent
Ghosts.
Price, baby.
And one, I think maybe my favorite
Mystery
iteration, a pup named Scooby-Doo.
Oh, no shit.
I like a pup
Okay.
named Scooby-Doo a
Which
lot.
I learned is some of the people who ended up like leaving and going to do Tiny Toons, which makes complete
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah,
and I was
yeah.
like, oh, there was this huge thing in the 90s where they're taking classic
The fucking-
cartoons and they're making them like young or what. That was the thing, but it was the same people that was like kind of their deal. So a pup named Scooby-Doo is pretty great. They make Fred just a complete fucking dumbass. He always blames the
Yeah.
one kid.
Red herring.
Yeah, red herring. It's pretty adorable. And actually, it is one of the longest running Scooby-Doos. The OG Scooby-Doo Where Are You? Only had 2 seasons. The first one was around like 12 to 18 episodes. I can't remember. The second one was only 8. Then they did like a Scooby-Doo movies where they had a bunch of these features like the Globetrotters
Oh,
and shit
yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
where they made them
yeah.
like 1 hour long episodes. But that wasn't Scooby-Doo
Phyllis
Where
Diller.
Are You? Then they did Scrappy-Doo and Scooby-Doo.
And that can fuck off.
Then they did then they did the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo,
Which is kinda cool.
Then they
Except for
did a
Flim
pup
Flam.
named
He can fuck
Scooby-Doo, and
off.
then it just kind of lingered. They did the movies. I have been
Watch
then-
Mysteries Inc. Dog.
Mystery
yeah,
Inc. is
that's
fucking
like the
great.
newest one. That
Yeah.
I
don't know if it's the newest
have
one, but it is.
been
I think
great
it is. Other than movies.
diving
I think there is another series since then, but go on.
into Scooby-Doo. And it's very interesting. And it's fun to follow along like these progressions, and also remember from a nostalgic like point of view, it's like, oh, I've experienced almost all of these growing up at some point,
Yeah.
but didn't know the history and the progression and stuff like that. But also, I got to give mad respect for this cartoon that laid the foundation. A lot of it is borrowing things from like classic horror, but to set this like foundation for kind of kids horror.
Yeah.
Like even in the original series, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Some of the things we see are, the big top, the clown, ghost, and in a circus, and then in a haunted amusement park,
Underwater.
and yeah, just all of these things. You're like, man, are those the things that cemented some of the tropes, some of the ideas, the horror aspects to me as
It
a
definitely
child?
brought
I think
kids
so.
to it for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. So
Please watch Mysteries Inc. and get back to us very soon.
Okay. So I have seen like I'm familiar with it, but I've just been in that. A pup named Scooby Doo. Some baller shit. I love that just Fred, like Velma's adorable.
She is super true.
Fucking Fred is
she's
so
absolutely,
incompetent. I like as the series
what's her
progresses, they just refine these characters
Peppermint
a
Patty
little bit
and
more.
fucking she like Velma in that show is a Peanuts character essentially.
Yeah.
She's
adorable.
fucking Marcy from Peanuts.
Yeah. So, anyways, I've been enjoying that quite a lot. To get ready for football and for other reasons, I've been watching Friday Night Lights.
that was related. I'm sorry.
No, Friday Night Lights, which is a like 2006 drama, which is like way WB'd, but it's like kind of cool.
Watch Ted Lasso, dog.
So, other than that, that's the only things that are popping in mind right now. Bob, what you been watching?
I picked up the latest release from Vestron, which was The Wraith from 1986.
Oh my god,
Was it a good deal?
that's a crazy fucking dumb movie.
Vestron titles are like between $12 and $15 now. Like
Steal.
they are a good deal, honestly. So this movie it's got Charlie Sheen in it. It's about this like
Good quality that.
this like squad of kids that are all about like racing cars, and one of them like gets in a terrible accident and dies, and then all of a sudden there's like this
Then he's
mysterious
the Wraith.
Yeah, this mysterious, like, super fast car driving dude shows up into town, like, mysteriously, and he's got this one-of-a-kind car, and, like, anything he drives his car into just fucking explodes, and, like, he's, like, unbeatable. He's the fastest motherfucker you've ever seen, and he's played by, like, Charlie Sheen. And...
Oh, that's true in the bed as well.
Yeah, that motherfucker explodes in the bed. It's a good time.
He's
It's like
certainly
set
fast.
out in the desert. There's like some goofy race sequences. There's like this like drive-in diner situation with like, you know, waitresses on skates and stuff. So it's got like a serious like vibe going for it that's kind of quaint and enjoyable. It's not scary in any way, but I found it to be like just a fun watch. I don't know, like kind of an experience. It's super goofy. It's very of the 80s, with like this space age fucking car driving around. I don't know. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Would recommend checking that out. I also watched the 4th season of Fuck That's Delicious, which is on Hulu. Action Bronson, the rapper, and a few of his friends just get to like travel around the country and the world, actually, and eating wonderful things and talking about them. And they're just like so obviously stoned out of their minds, and just say like really dumb things, but they're like having such a great time.
That is by
and
far
hanging
the
out.
loosest
That
travel
sounds
show I've
familiar
ever seen.
for some reason.
It sounds familiar, except like that's their job and they make money at it. So
I
that's
wish, if only.
I don't know. I get a kick out of watching that. They like obviously love each other so much, and they just like they're like a little crew that just, I don't know, got lucky, man.
Well,
Like,
that's different. I mean, we hate
hate
each other.
We hate each
You
other.
made me drink Malort. You better give me some time.
Yeah, they're drinking like fine wines, and here we are just drinking Malort.
We're drinking,
Well,
we're
you
drinking
know.
toilet fucking
Potato.
scrub. That is the grossest potato.
I definitely dig that shit though. Check out Fuck That's
Give me
Delicious.
some of that potato,
on
dog.
Hulu.
I've never heard anyone say potato.
Randy made me watch Bo Burnham's special on Netflix called Inside last night.
Was
and
it garbage?
My
Bob?
brain was just like fucked
'Cause
after
it's
watching it.
garbage.
No, it's fantastic. It's extremely
God damn,
good.
literally everyone keeps telling me to watch
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'm so sorry you're not on the Vanguard. How horrible
I'm
for
not
you.
cool enough.
It's a heavy watch. Like
It
it
is
is
a heavy
not bust a gut like stand up comedy. That's not what this is.
But it's smart as shit.
It's incredibly well written, and like there's been a ton of thought put into it, and there's a lot of very heavy subject matter discussed. I don't know. After I couldn't stop like thinking about it. I was thinking about it all day today. Even like I just can't stop thinking about it. It's incredibly good. I recommend it.
that is so validating for me. You have no idea.
I'm not here to validate.
Wait till I
But you
shit
are.
on it.
So thank you.
Uh-huh.
Accept my thanks.
So check that out if you're up for something a little,
Fucking hot takes
little
Randy
heavy,
over
a little
here.
heavy. Hot cakes, Randy. That's all. That's all I've been watching.
It's great.
Let's get into our final segment of the show, which is, of course, our Hotline Scream.
Hotline Scream.
Yeah.
Somebody didn't make us drink Malort, you'd probably be done by now.
Yeah, goddamn.
What an asshole that theoretical person is.
Betty's. Never mind.
If you are listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail to be featured on next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We got one voicemail this week. We're going to hear from our courteous Canadian Cole. Let's hear what Cole has to say.
Hey guys, Cole calling. I've been meaning to call in for a while now, ever since your rubber episode, and somehow every week I'm surprised to find out that a week's passed and you guys released another episode and I still haven't called. The main reason I'm calling, I guess, the last time we were talking about you guys were going to give some advice. And I remember back when you did it the first time, I hadn't caught up in episodes and I couldn't believe that nobody called in and asked for your guys' advice. So here's my problem. I've always loved horror movies, and my wife really doesn't. And I've got a 3-year-old that also doesn't like horror movies, obviously. And so instead of watching them, I've constantly listening to reviews, and I can have like detailed conversations about movies I've never seen before, just based on reviews I've watched on all especially the classics. So, but I feel like I need to actually watch them, and I don't know how to go about it. So if you guys can give me some advice, that'd be great. Thanks. Bye.
What you got to do, Cole, is you got to get a super secret apartment that you never tell your wife about ever at all. And then you get like an 80-inch flat screen TV up in that bitch with a 4K player, and you just fucking tell her you're working a lot of overtime and then just go watch horror
Make sure and
movies.
spend a lot of money at really fancy restaurants so she just thinks you're cheating on her.
That's... Yeah, you
Do
can do
not
that
let her
too.
know about the horror, though.
Yeah, that's the only way that you can do this.
No, really, though, like, first of all, it is completely believable that nobody's called us to ask for advice. I think that's self-evident. Second, I don't
We
know. Like,
drink
this is...
Malort.
You should definitely watch these movies yourself. Like, I understand the impulse, and I totally understand the situation is fraught for you to be able to even watch them at all. But, I mean, honestly, carve yourself out some time. If you, like, just have a conversation with your wife. Give me 2.5 hours every week to myself, even if it's just you go to bed before I do, and then you stay up late, you watch the thing you want to watch, you take it in, what little at a time you can. That's the only suggestion I have. Otherwise, you're going to be like moonlighting on the side, and I don't think that's going to be helpful for anybody if it's like an under the table sort of scenario.
Yeah. Or stay up late or get up a little earlier. Like, I just will get up at 5 o'clock no matter what I have to do because my body won't let me fucking sleep.
Yeah.
So I just find myself watching stuff in the morning alone anyways.
All of his selves.
All of myself. I don't know. It's an option for you if you're a morning person. Have some coffee, throw on a horror movie, and then go to work. I don't know.
Yeah. So Jude's about to give you the best advice. Here we go.
Wow.
God.
Wow.
Cole, we're about to play the long con here. But here's what
there's
you
a
got
con
to do.
involved.
Seriously, you got a young kid. You have a wife. Neither of them like horror. But you are at a perfect time to start building a foundation that, honestly, this is kind of like a long-term thing. But you're going to build it up. So you're not going to watch these films immediately, my guy. What you're doing is you're heading into spooky season. Even Walmart's dropping their shit. It's appropriate now. I know that we've talked about this earlier. Seriously, this is true advice. Seriously, start with children or like accessible family themed horror.
Like Scooby-Doo, like Casper.
Yeah, like Scooby-Doo, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Movie wise, you got Casper. Hocus Pocus. Please watch Hocus Pocus with
Great
your
pumpkin.
family this,
Over the
Halloween
garden
season.
wall.
Yes,
Over the garden
yes.
wall. Start introducing these slight things. And here's where you start to deviate.
That's a good- that is
As
good
you
advice.
move out of Halloween season, even things that are seen as like
Scooby-Doo.
horror within, like Alien, for that's like sci-fi. Once you can kind of set that foundation, don't just go straight into the horror. Yeah,
Well,
start
we don't
to
know
kind
what
of-
his wife is open
It's
to
true
either.
but there's like
there's crossovers. though.
fillers. Oh wait,
If she likes comedy,
Thrillers,
watch
yeah.
Shaun of
There's
the Dead. If she
fillers.
likes,
Oh my God.
if she likes sci-fi, watch
Like-
Alien. If
Yeah,
she likes,
Thrill- yeah.
Seven,
Westerns,
Silence
watch
of the
Bone
Lambs.
Tomahawk.
yeah,
Like,
there's
Jaws.
things that can start to blend this.
If she likes thrillers, watch Silence of the Lambs. If you need to, just go to the top of the. This is good advice, by the way. I'm building off your idea.
Mm-hmm.
Credit where it's due. So, it's like Silence of the Lambs. That's an Oscar-winning movie. That
Yeah.
won Best Picture. Just say that and be like, "This is one Best Picture."
Yeah.
If you want a date night where we watch a movie together,
Sure.
If she doesn't dig it, that's fine. But you can also do what Becky and I do. Even though she likes horror movies, is an exchange night where we each pick a movie when we have time. Like if you have a date night that you can do this on, because I know you have a kid. Each of you pick a movie that you have seen or that you want to see, and the other person definitely has not, and you kind of do a cultural exchange. I've done this with friends, but Becky and I do this as a couple. Like, she'll show me things that I've never seen before, and I'll show her things she's never seen before. And she may not always like it, I may not always like it, but we always each get something that we enjoy that night. And then we do other things.
I would caution that. I think that's a good
Smash.
idea, but I would caution that still you got to ease. Like, don't just go like we're watching
I wouldn't go
some
to
crazy shit
Chainsaw
because that's
Massacre right out of the gate.
Yeah,
you want to choose something that you think that person will like.
yeah. You got to get into something where it's not completely
like.
brutal, but still has the acclaim or something like that you can kind of ease in and get the taste of like the suspense. Get into where but it's not keeping you up at night. It's not giving you nightmares. It's not giving you crazy, people are being tortured or crazy. Like, ease it in.
And if you all else fails and you find a situation where she's gonna have nightmares based on fucking everything.
Some
or
people don't like
whatever.
ghosts.
Some people just don't like
people
horror
don't like
movies, and
demonic
they're
shit,
wrong,
yeah.
but they're fine, and they can have that opinion, and they should not be forced to continue to watch them. But then you make some sort of agreement amongst the two of you about you being able to spend some time, indulging yourself.
True.
And then she can indulge herself in things that some other kind of film that you don't share with her, crossover with her on.
But I genuinely, oh my god, damn.
Tied.
I think you can create the bridge. Like they said, Shaun of the Dead. There are things that you can, even a lot of people who are don't like horror in quotations can accept zombie shit. So even comedies, Shaun of the Dead, Walking Dead, stuff like that, you can start to bridge the gap and then get into things like A Quiet Place, which there's
accessible horror films in
There
the world.
is more accessible horror. So
Little Shop of Horrors.
Start low with the spooky season coming up. Start with some kid stuff, some cartoons, some really family accessible stuff. Once that
And reserve
season
the hard drugs
dips
for
out,
yourself until she's ready.
yeah, play the classics. So this is really like a 6 to 12 month step program that we're creating here. Yeah. But I think it will work, or it has the best potential to
bare minimum
work.
over years. Your daughter, or I think you said daughter,
just kid.
Okay, your child will develop an appreciation for at least a couple of those spooky things that you show her, if only for nostalgic reasons. And over time, you might be able to share that interest with her, if not your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could
team
even
up against
squeeze in
her.
some you could squeeze in some Goonies or Gremlins, or you
those
got
are entry
Addams
levels.
Family,
Yeah.
live action and cartoon. Even some Tim Burton stuff, like maybe Beetlejuice. You
Nightmare on
could get
Elm
some
Street,
of that.
or Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean,
Nightmare on Elm
I'm
Street.
literally looking at Nightmare on Elm
For your
Street
child
on the wall.
Yeah,
So-
so I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there that's not super heavy.
Yeah,
hitting,
Corpse Bride.
which that only
Disney Channel horror movies are also available.
I feel like
Halloween Town.
I feel like that only solves half your problem. Like if you're trying to watch new horror movies,
Sure.
then
Yeah.
that's not really going to help.
But
you.
it's the long
I
con.
agree. story.
Yeah,
like,
it's a long con. Yeah.
you may not get to watch, Possessor Uncut right away,
Monster
or the new
House.
Candyman or whatever based on this. Might not be going out on date nights to see new horror movies right away, but over time, that will build. I think that's a smart idea.
Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Good question. Yeah, just have your wife call in. We'll talk to her. We'll scare her straight. It'll be
Speaking of spooky season,
Tell her call Soju.
Go ahead, Randy.
No, that'll end badly for you. Yeah, speaking of spooky season, I had a prompt for this week. I was curious about this, and we kind of touched on this on the Slack channel, but I want to know if anybody has already or is just about to break the seal on their spooky season viewing, because we're right on the cusp here ourselves. I know Soju has mentioned at least 3 times today how much he wants to get into his fall viewing. Rob has mentioned something similar, at least since I've been here. And, I have come very, very close to just saying fuck it and watching Over the Garden Wall for the first time this season.
Wait.
But I gotta wait. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it's too hot. It's too much beach weather right now to get into it. That's how I feel about it. But I know there are people out there that do not feel that way and have already broken the seal. I want to know if that's you. I want to know if you're ready to roll on that. And if you are or are about to, what is it you're breaking the seal with, why, and things like that. We've asked similar questions before, but I think we're so early in the season that I'm just curious who's willing to throw caution to the wind here.
Yeah. Honestly, for me tonight and like today, we went to the beach, we watched Friday the 13th. This was kind of the nail in the coffin for summer for me. Kids are going back to school. I went to Walmart last night. I posted pictures all over the Slack. Dude, Walmart, like, it looked like they just set up last night. It was like, happy fall. It literally, the Halloween candy with the orange boxes and the jack-o'-lanterns and the bats and shit. It is after tonight. Like, this is it. I know we said after July 4th, but like, this was the nail in the coffin for summer for me. And like, I'm moving on. It's time to move on.
Time for the pumpkin chuckin'.
Time to get it. We got 2 full months.
Tight. Yeah, let us know if you are already dipping your balls in the Halloween season. What are you watching and why? Hit us up at 904-638-3231. That does it for us this week at Straight Chilling. We're going to be back next week with a brand new episode. As always, we're going to be talking about the winner of the August poll pick, which was Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me from 1992.
Let's rock!
Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of our social media outlets, and I'll send you a link to join in on the fun. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.